easily see if Agaronia bumps into something. During Black Friday shopping, Walmart turned off all of the lights. You'd just be grabbing stuff. Who knows what would end up in the cart? Bump into the janitor if he's small enough, you pick him up and plop him in there. Next to the George Foreman grill box on his phone. Passed over that bottle cap to lick in, and he's like, I'm a crab, not a snail when they have pinchy pinches. Agaronia don't give a crap. Once its prey is in its pouch, Agaronia begins to bury itself. This is a bummer way to die, let's face it. It looks like someone mostly buried an old man on a nudist beach. Anyway, begins to release proteolytic enzymes to start the digestion process. Sorry, it's kind of ironic to die in a testicle, right? Once under the sand, Agaronia will insert its mouth into the pouch on the end of a tube-like proboscis. This mouth is equipped with a radula. You can see one in action on these other snails and slugs. It's a flexible sheet of teeth like fleshy sandpaper. Using its radula, it will eat up all the soft parts and leave the cleaned out shells behind. So when you pick up that pretty shell on the beach, it's basically a murder scene. But if you're an Agaronia, you have to be careful. Live by the foot, die by the foot sort of thing. Because Agaronia are cannibals, and there's always a large... Sorry. It gets complicated. You start getting into arguments about who's eating who. You know, stuff you hear at an orgy for narcissists. Agaronia are so aggressive, they will attack things much larger than they could ever fit in their pouch. But they'll give it the old college try. By the way, if you're a scientist with a foot fetish, this is the animal you should study. Danny, I don't want you going down to the beach and putting your finger in snail's feet. All the neighbors keep asking me, why is Danny going down to the beach and fingering snail's feet? Mother, you can't talk to me like that anymore. It's my job. I'm a grown man. Look, it's trying to eat a people. Agaronia isn't all offense, though. It has one more special feature. See that dark line that goes through its foot? That is called
the loop of shame.
When Agaronia is under attack and retracts into its shell, the part of its foot that is exposed can tear off along that line, and over time it will grow back. On beaches very far away from this one, across the world, other snails have also evolved the ability to surf. If Agaronia are like the lions of the swash-surfing snails, then snails in the genus Bullia are like the vultures. They've got more of a longboard style of surfing, and what they're looking for are dead things that washed up on the beach to rot. When Bullia senses the cloud of juices wafting from this blue-bottle jellyfish, for example, it will surf to the part of the beach where the jellyfish is most likely to have landed. If you try cookies in the kitchen sort of thing, no need for a foot pouch. The jellyfish isn't going anywhere. It's directly with its mouth.
Lincoln Whiskey, Romeo Echo. Greetings, Commander.
Which they will eat from time to time to get
And be mindful of other pilots in the area.
Even sharpshooters like Impagus Saliana have taken to surfing up and down the beach as they hunt for worms. They ride a nice little shortboard. Impagus are in the same superfamily as these cone snails, and they have yet another method of hunting. They extend their proboscis out towards their prey, in this case a not-so-smart fish. Then, they use a modified radula in the shape of a barbed needle to harpoon the fish. The radula contains toxins which can stun or kill the prey.
Flight assist.
Access granted. Set down a landing pad. Zero
And
in.
it beats dying in a ball sack. By the way, if you're a fish, don't respond to those ads in the newspaper to be part of a clinical research trial. So wait, what am I supposed to do exactly? Just hang out? That's it. Hold on. Is this a porno? Oh crap. It is a porno. There's no more. You got scared there for a second, didn't you? But listen, I need to talk to you about these snail trails. They're random, right? But are they? Are they? I mean, look at it. This isn't like that whole type the word monkey a million times and then it's, you take a typewriter and you put a monkey on it, in it. No, there's a lot of typewriters, right? footprints in the sand.
Please follow standard operating procedures.
This is really getting embarrassing for both of us.
Before entering the starport.
Okay, whatever.
Landing complete. Clear to disembark.
Let's go in.
Meet Blubbery. Oops, sorry, that should be Blueberry. Meet Blueberry. Blueberry is in the superfamily Giraffoidea, the family Giraffidae, the genus Giraffa. You can see where this is headed. And the species, Camelopardalis. Sort of a left turn on the species name. Because apparently to whoever named it first, it looks like the product of a camel and a leopard. Humping, kill me. But listen, you're stuck with the first name you get. That's what Billy Ballsack Chin used to tell me. Although the face of the giraffe can resemble a horse that's been vacuum sealed, it is not a horse. Like cows and camels, the giraffe is an even-toed ungulate, meaning that it supports its weight on two hooves that surround what would be its third and fourth toe. They look like two little shoes, worn by someone who needs to go to the bathroom. This little piggy had roast beef, this little piggy had none. And that's it. That's the whole rhyme for them. Sort of a bummer. The horse, on the other hand, is a roast beef-only odd-toed ungulate, which supports its weight on a single hoof evolved from its third digit. That's right, horse be flipping you off 4 times. Like all even-toed ungulates, the giraffe is a ruminant feeder. It first ferments what it eats in a tummy part called the rumen, and there's plenty of room in there. Dad joke. Then it gently barfs the food all the way back up its neck to its mouth to give it a bit more of a chew. Don't front, you've had a second visit from a chicken enchilada before, and you kept chewing. Spicy. One of the giraffe's favorite foods to mouth barf are the leaves of the acacia tree, which you can see here. You might recognize this shot from page 4 of Happy Giraffe, Sad Giraffe. Page 6 is much worse. One of the bummers about loving to eat acacia leaves is they come served on a barbed wire skewer. It's like trying to enjoy a trail mix that someone added wood screws to. I'm saying the thorns are big. To get at leaves like these, it has modified mouth parts. On the top of the camel's mouth, which looks like a very uncomfortable pair of shoes, the front teeth have migrated to the back to help with the chewing. In their place is a fleshy dental pad. Not the best name, is it, dental pad? In any case, the dental pad is used in conjunction with the bottom teeth to grab and tear at leaves. Their lips are tough like a cowboy, but bendy to help them navigate thorns. If a thorn gets through, their mouth and throat are protected by an especially thick and slobbery saliva. Giraffes also have a prehensile tongue, which means their tongue is not quite hensile, just a little before that. It's also crazy. Look at it, it's like a very naughty eel. This tongue spends a lot of time outdoors and is purplish-black in color to help protect it from the sun. It is a long tongue, up to 10 inches long. To put that into perspective, your digestive tract from your mouth to the other side is 36 giraffe tongues long. Well, that's not helpful, is it? How about if you put 18 tongues in one side and then 18 tongues in the other, they would meet in the middle. Well, that's even worse. Let's just move on. If nutrition is scarce, they will
Asked in clubs when you went out to feel all important like you were in a war.
phosphorus. I know what you're thinking. Stop it. Don't stoop down to their level. Well, that doesn't work, does it? When the giraffe is thirsty, it assumes the position of a very drunk person trying to pick up a quarter, splaying its legs to an almost 90-degree angle. Due to its long-ass neck, valves in its jugular vein close and prevent blood from rushing to its head. It's a fairly vulnerable position, so when they drink, they make the most of it. It is thought to drink in a pump-like fashion, closing its throat and moving its jaw back to pull water into its mouth. It then closes its mouth, opens its throat, and forces water back into its esophagus. Gulp by gulp, it fills up its neck like it was a bong-sized shot glass. When it lifts its head, the water rushes down into its tum-tum, and the valves in its veins open back up. You may have noticed that the giraffe is very, very fun. to look at. However, it is also very tall. Indeed, the tallest giraffe is taller than any other giraffe. Well, that's not helpful. Giraffe babies come partially pre-stretched. In their lower parts, the most remarkable stretching is that of the metatarsal and metacarpal bones. Whoa! Whoa there! This little fella's sleepy. These bones that make up almost half of their leg length are analogous to the bones in our hands and feet. What appear to be the giraffe's knees are actually its wrists and ankles. To support an average adult weight of over 2,600 pounds, these little spindly sticks come with suspenders. A suspensory ligament runs down a groove in these bones and helps bear the weight. The outsides of the legs are wrapped tightly with a sort of compression hose made of fascia. This helps prevent blood from pooling in their legs when they stand. While walking forwards, the front part of the giraffe looks a bit like the butt prints of someone wearing leopard print leggings who is walking backwards. It moves both limbs on one side of its body while balancing on the other two. You can try this. Instead of swinging your arms opposite your legs, try swinging them on the same side. It looks graceful on a giraffe, but you will look like an idiot. When it runs, however, the giraffe go ahead and switch the style up, breaking into a galloping stride that can reach 37 miles per hour. It is easy to see that the giraffe is very naked. It has the same number of bones in its neck as we do, 7 cervical vertebrae. Other long-necked animals, like birds, achieve their longness by the addition of cervical vertebrae. The flamingo, for example, has 19. But the giraffe thinks birds are stupid, especially the oxpecker, which is named an oxpecker because it looks like an ox. That's not true. Like the rest of its body, the giraffe's neck is covered in a unique pattern of spots, which it partially inherits from its mother. This remarkable camouflage makes the giraffe virtually invisible. Where are they? You don't know. Sitting at a great heightedness, the giraffe's head can sometimes look like someone papier-mâchéd a few extra bumps on a freeze-dried donkey. These bumps are ossified cartilage called ossicones. On females, they have cute little tufts on them. Male ossicones are more knobby and used to beat the crap out of each other, sort of. Male giraffes fight a bit like those dudes that don't dance at concerts and just stand there with their hands in their pockets, and one gets bumped into and is all like, chill bro, and bumps back, and the other guy's like, I'm not your bro, and leans in hard, and the other guy pushes back like, that's not what your mom said. Well, then I'd be your son, dad. I'm not your dad, bro. And it goes on like that until one is dominant. Although this can look like a mellow affair, these blows are strong enough to break a neck. The risk is worth it, however, in order to gain access to a potential mate. The male will check a female's readiness to mate by smelling and tasting her urine, which is certainly one way to do it. Don't judge. You can judge the one that's watching. That one's a perv. Rest, that is just how the giraffe do. Many people assume that giraffes who are their long necks
Real time.
in competition and gained an advantage in eating from high.
We would like to welcome all pilots to the starboard. Be sure to check station services for any updates and enjoy your stay.
Is the NHS racist? Well, The Guardian says yes, the NHS is racist. This is an old article from 2014 that shows that the NHS is reliant on foreign nationals. And of course that means black and minority ethnic staff, who the NHS has pledged to support and encourage to allow black and minority ethnic people, which just means non-white basically, to reach the top of the NHS, because there was probably racism holding them back, I guess, is what we're assuming. Everything that holds back people is racism. There are no other factors contingent on anything that they may have done or anything really necessary to take into account when we are considering the lack of achievement of non-white people. And the people who are non-white who have achieved, people such as Rishi Sunak, Priti Patel, you know, the Baroness
This is with,
whoever it is, they weren't affected by the racism for some reason. So this article's from January last year in the Nursing Times. I've got to say, thank God the NHS is finally getting its priorities straight, which, when I say that, I mean prioritising non-English people. If there's one group of people that I want to see irrationally prioritised over other groups of people because of their skin colour, it's non-white people. I certainly don't want to see white people prioritised because of their skin colour, so why wouldn't I want to see black people or brown people prioritised because of their skin colour? I mean, I'm just one of those old-fashioned, archaic liberal types who's just like, I don't think anyone should be prioritised because of their skin colour. I think that this is a total non-issue because it's nothing to do, surely, with the way that they're born as to their ability and position that is earned within the NHS. But then I have an idealistic conception of the world where I think that maybe the NHS shouldn't be run along racial lines. It's just, crazy ideas, like these genuine dreams. One day, the fact that I'm white or someone else is black or brown or whatever just won't come up in the conversation. That's the utopia I'm aiming for. Let's just not bring up the race. Let's just not bring up the race, and then suddenly, oh, did you know? I knew the NHS was racist. I knew it. We've got you now, NHS. Your racism is revealed for all to see, as this article from The Guardian 10 months ago in June last year points out. I always suspected black and minority ethnic medics were treated differently. Now I know it's true. Oh yeah? Although I've heard in the dark whispers, the off-record conversations throughout my 13 years as a doctor, I've never wanted to believe it. But now something I was warned about my first year is out there in the open. We have to deal with it. Doctors on the NHS are treated differently depending on their ethnicity. This comes from a report commissioned by the General Medical Council, the regulatory body for doctors, which talks of multiple and intricately linked factors behind the disproportionate number of referrals of doctors from ethnic minorities to their employers. Right, so it's not that these ethnic minorities in these individual cases have done anything wrong that warrants a referral. It is that the doctors and professionals doing the referring are in fact a bunch of racists, disproportionately racist compared to presumably the general population. And this is because they are apparently treating these ethnic minority doctors as outsiders. So they're treating them as the other. And I suppose the easiest way to show that they're doing that is by the fact that they're categorizing them as Bane and saying, oh yeah, we're going to bring in these people and treat them as if they're something different and special and unique and, more importantly, inferior, which is why they need this special help. They are, as far as the NHS is concerned, inferior to the native British population. Now, this is not my opinion. I do not think that this is the case, and the proof of this would be in the fact that I wouldn't consider the race of the people who are working at the NHS an actionable vector of consideration at all. As a criterion goes, I think it actually tells us very little about the person. Very few things are actually necessarily true because a person comes from a particular race. And so I'm actually completely with The Guardian on this. I think that the NHS having special rules for black and minority ethnic staff is indeed them treating them as outsiders and, more importantly, being racist. But it gets worse. Apparently a third of black and minority NHS staff have been bullied by colleagues, which is compared to 15% of the white people who work there, the white English or Scottish or Welsh or whatever it is, or French or Germans, in fact. So it turns out that not only is the NHS institutionally racist, but a large number of the people working in the NHS are also racists, who go out of their way to bully their black and minority ethnic staff. Now, I didn't want the NHS to be racist. I'm just going off the reports that we have that nobody seems to want to talk about. Until something like the COVID-19 pandemic comes around and suddenly, oh God, everyone's got this coronavirus and now black people are most affected. As we were told by The Telegraph about 2 weeks ago, black and minority ethnic patients apparently face a disproportionately high risk of death from the coronavirus. New data shows. So the information that they have is that NHS England figures reveal that 13,918 patients in hospital who tested positive for COVID-19 up until April the 17th, 16.2% were of BAME background, despite these communities making up around only 13%. Ready to engage. That's probably not true. That figure comes from the 2011 census. We are nearly 10 years on from the 2011 census, which found that Britain well, we have actually had, as I said, 10 years of consideration. We can actually calculate the number of people who have come in. Since 2011, we've had about 2 million people. So the fact that it's 16% compared to 30% strikes me as very much a sort of Jurassic Park problem. I don't know whether anyone's read the novel or anything, but in there, the computer program was only looking for X amount of dinosaurs, and so when they changed the program to search for total dinosaurs, they found that the dinosaurs were breeding. Oh my god, we're surrounded by loose dinosaurs and we had no idea. And this is essentially the kind of position that the Telegraph has created by saying, oh well, we're only expecting 13%, in fact 16% are ill. And it's like, okay, but proportionally, that might actually be about right, mightn't it? I mean, it seems that that might be something that can be accounted for by immigration since
I was close to the
and remember, it's
ship
important
station.
that they do not spread evenly across the country, as you can see from where they're going from. This is the Migration University, Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford. So this isn't like some sort of wacko right-wing site that they can just dismiss. You can see that non-EU born, as well as EU, but most immigrants generally go to London. And the issue with going to London is it's a very, very high density area. It's probably one of the most densely populated places on the planet. It doesn't represent the rest of England.
Is it not on any
so
local lines?
using data and statistics from London and like folding these into the statistics for the rest of the United Kingdom gives you a very inaccurate representation
That's
of
how it
what
works.
the country actually looks like. It seems to be that deaths from the coronavirus are correlated with things like obesity because of other underlying complications like heart disease, diabetes, etc., etc. And if we look at the ethnic breakdown of who in Britain, according to the 2017-2018 figures, is obese, well, the black community, I'm afraid, take the prize there. 72% of them are obese. Now, I'm not saying that we're doing brilliantly at 72.9%, but when we combine that with the fact that they are overwhelmingly in London in very tight conditions, literally, living on top of each other in many cases because of multi-story flats in very, very narrow locales, suddenly we start getting a picture of why these people are suffering more deaths per capita that doesn't require us to establish any kind of genetic inference from it. We don't know what the genes and how the genes of these people affect how they react to the coronavirus, so there's no point in going down that road yet. And it also doesn't require us to declare that our entire civilization is racist to be able to explain this. We may be able to explain this by the living arrangements and dietary habits, and not only that, the social habits of these people. Have they been obeying the lockdown orders? I have. I've only been out once a day for a walk around because that's the maximum amount of exercise you're allowed to do. You're not allowed to go anywhere else. Or occasionally go to the supermarket where you've got a queue 2 meters apart. That's probably a lot more difficult to do in London, and the rest of the country who don't live in London live in a much more spaced out fashion. So it could well be that the problem is simply the density and the diet and behaviour of the people themselves. So I think that what we know so far is that we have not found any direct evidence that it is being black that makes one vulnerable to this, especially as people from other black backgrounds are not as vulnerable. We do know that the coronavirus has particularly negative effects. Most of the victims have been overweight or obese, so presumably that is interacting with some underlying conditions. And we know that it's not just non-white people, black and minority ethnic. No, specifically it appears to be black people who are having a problem with this. So I think that we could suggest that fit, healthy, young black people are probably actually around the same amount of risk as anyone else, but there are higher occurrences of poor health within the black community because of things that they do, such as smoking, drinking, taking drugs, or eating unhealthy foods. So is it sensible for the Somerset NHS to prioritise black and minority ethnic staff, or is it sensible for them to prioritise those members of staff who have either pre-existing conditions or are obese? Why would that not be more sensible? Especially in a place like Somerset. I mean, if we're going by the last census, Somerset was 94.6% white British. The black and minority ethnic population of Somerset was 10,000 people in 2011. 2%. And that, out of that, that would have been probably, let's just be generous, say 1% of Somerset's black people. Does this make sense? Like, why don't you prioritize the people who are unhealthy or have addictions or drugs or alcohol addictions or whatever it is? Does this make sense? Or is this knee-jerk virtue signaling? We're deep in the ideological mire, afraid of being called racist, and so we feel like we have to do something. And so yes, here are the special, magical, vulnerable black people that we're going to treat as inferiors to us white people who are just fine and never die from the coronavirus. Is that what we're going to do, NHS, in some sense? Because it appears to be the case. But then, NHS, the head of the health service, came out and said, by the way, the NHS workers should be given roles reducing risk from coronavirus, says new guidance. Oh, really? Is that the case, is it? The NHS, which relies on its black and minority ethnic staff, and all of the immigrants run the NHS, is what we are told, which I'll get to in a minute, in fact. So, what now? If they're not going to be on the front line, if they're going to be taken off and away from running the health service, then who's going to run it? Are the native Brits going to run it for the immigrants now? They don't prop up our health service. We don't need them for the health service anymore. Does this mean we can just permanently end immigration? If that's going to be the case. Like, this destroys so many left-wing narratives about the NHS and immigration that it's actually quite comical. And what's even funnier, though, is because the NHS is racist. Well, I mean, this is going to be hard for us to do. Shielding black and minority ethnic staff is going to be difficult because of the coronavirus. Have you guys not been called racist enough? I think you can do. You're going to have to find a way to do it. And the thing is, I would believe you if I thought that there was, in fact, excess pressure on the NHS, but all of the insufferable viral nurse TikToks that I've seen going around really makes me think that actually they've got plenty of time to prat around. And I'm really not impressed with all of this. And I realise, again, like, there are going to be areas of the country that have absolutely nothing in the way of coronavirus, and you're going to have, like, London, which is going to be glowing hub of it. So I can understand why there are going to be doctors and nurses who are getting bored, who are being told that this is all, there's going to be a tidal wave of dying people here, which didn't happen. But this is just really bad optics. If you want to make me think that the NHS is understaffed, it's overburdened with patients, and it's all about to collapse, don't prat around in TikTok videos, because it makes it look like you don't have enough to do. So then we come to Al Jazeera. Why are ethnic minorities more vulnerable to the coronavirus? Well, I've given my hypothesis. What do you think theirs is? They say about 20% of the UK belong to a minority, according to a 2011 census. Are we including, like, the Welsh, just out of interest? Do they count as an ethnic minority? Because they are an ethnic minority. So are the Scots, so are the Northern Irish. I mean, is this, are the English the ethnic majority of Britain, or do they get folded into the English, which is good to know. Got to put the Celts back in mind, so, as I'll do with Dancon Bannerlord at some point, I'm sure. But 40% of the NH staff from black and minority ethnic backgrounds, a number which rises to 45% in London, an epicenter of the pandemic. Really? That's not true. I don't know why you would make a claim that was so easily disprovable. So this is the UK government's own NHS statistics from March 2019. This is such an easily disprovable claim, I don't know why they would do this. It's clear that about 20% of the NHS workforce is black and minority ethnic. And that, again, is not really very relevant to anything in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion. But it is just not true. A number which rises to 45% in London, well, you would think it would, considering that in the 2011 census, we found out that London was 42% English. Well, you would expect that, considering, as they say, the capital is home to the UK's highest ethnic minority population of 40%. But anyway, you would kind of expect that, because, as they say, it's again, in 2011, it was 40.2%. Azim Majid, a professor of primary care at Imperial College in London, said, it's just Imperial College, but anyway, said that while the reason that ethnic minorities were more vulnerable was unclear, comorbidities, the presence of more than one disease or condition in the patient at the same time, might be among the factors. It could be related to underlying medical problems such as diabetes and kidney disease. Well, it seems that would actually correlate well with the obesity levels that we were seeing in these communities. There are also concerns, though, that it's social and economic inequality. And of course, being overcrowded crowded, and in multi-generational occupancies, the infections can be brought back home and spread to other members of the family. This is apparently something that affects 30% of Bangladeshi and 15% of black African households in the UK, compared to about 2% of white households, the data suggests. Well, there we go. What can you do? I guess everyone's a racist. It's a good thing that Kindy Andrews has been jumping in with a "Das Right" on TV, on Channel 4. It's not a surprise given health inequalities that the BAME community is most affected by the coronavirus. What are our options here, Kindy? What would you like us to do? How are we going to force black people to lose weight, stop drinking to excess, and get regular exercise? Stop living.
They can't change.
Target of Cobra was always the billions of
the new Christ, and the Pope has blessed Greta Thunberg as the savior. Green faith and the climate change agenda is the new religion of these libtards.
Well, that's what this whole cut down the economy is. Shut things off is showing us we're non-essential and killing us. And that's what they're doing. Because they know we have a will to build and construct. They're saying, no, you don't do that. You're slaves.
You see, the UN has just launched with Greta Thunberg yesterday an initiative for protecting the children's rights of coronavirus. I don't know what that is, but it sounds totally sick.
Yeah, they claim they represent us all. And then in this ritual in 2012 of the London Olympics, they have giant red racists come in and scoop up children, pulling them up into their arms for death with a giant coronavirus. And again, explain why in ritual magic that why this is done.
Well, it's done because they have to first allegorically, symbolically represent what is happening. They charge everything magnetically, and then they open the portal with a sacrifice, which usually is a human sacrifice, if not an animal sacrifice. Greta Thunberg is that person who they want to be in charge for the new generations. That's why they are pushing this figure so much. This figure that, of course, is also connected to Antifa. It's an anti-Christian figure, and all that, of course, in this age in which we are separating gradually society, and we are seeing that a lot of people are willing to go the way of the devil, the way of Satan and cyber Satan and the beast. So
and what happens to people, because you look at old photographs, but I have memories too. People had more fire in their eyes 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I see it. Either people are getting stronger, but they're still not as strong as folks used to be, or they either look like zombies, or they have this weird, like the governor of Michigan, or like Ryan Stilter. It's like I can't make the face. It's like
the eyes
walk around like demons. What is that?
The eyes are a reflection of the soul. If we have to also, before we conclude this segment, talk about another important ritual. 1 year ago, Madonna did a very important ritual in Tel Aviv during the Eurovision. And during her performance there, she showed gas masks which are used in biological warfare. She showed herself with a crown on top, which also Corona means crown. And in the record which she released a month later, she had this typewriter which she's using now for her tweets. It's a typewriter, it's a Corona typewriter. So Madonna has joined Bill Gates officially in a special project, and she's also part of this whole satanic takeover. So they're actually they're doing it right in her face. I mean,
they called it Disease X a year ago when she did it, and then that's what she wore over her eye too.
Yeah, and of course Madonna she was wearing that thing over her eye, just like a bit reminiscent also of Marilyn Manson, so of another Satanist that of course is part of the elite satanic posse, because they're all merged together. I mean, Marilyn Manson loves, for example, Marina Abramovic. Marina Abramovic loves the work of Madonna, who in turn they all love each other and they all love what they're doing, you see. So they want to go back in control of this planet. They know that they can't do it any longer democratically, so they are hijacking society.
Well, I was about to say, the global people shouldn't feel like losers. The global awakening the last few years forced them to accelerate their plan, which is why, as the Bible states, it'll be built for like 1 year. A very slow, talks about a day, a year. Looking at that, Leo, what does that esoteric mean? How long does this thing, how long do we have to deal with this once it's in place?
Well, if we study very accurately, there is a specific number of months that we still have available before we will be fronting the last phase, which will bring us inevitably to Armageddon, because there will be a confrontation between the two sides at one point. And this confrontation is, as I said, inevitable. And
hold on, in 5 more minutes, then he's going to take over. But I want to get your interpretation of that, because if there's a confrontation between the good armies and the bad armies, not just God there, who are those armies, and what happens when all this goes down? You were with Leo Zagami, then Dr. Nick Baker's taking over. Please don't forget, we're funded by you buying products that you already need and are great. And we've got the krill oil back in stock, X2 back in stock, 50% off. We have storable food available. The order's in now before we have to suspend sales, because we could run out again. I mean, this is a long, dark winter we're going into, folks. Get prepared and fund the InfoWars. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Dan.
It was only 4 months ago that I warned President Trump and the American people that Cobra would never stand for you resisting our takeover. There is no limit to which we will not stoop to make you bow via the fear that is innate in your hearts. It was I, the leader of Cobra, that foresaw your inner cowardice and how much you would enjoy watching Netflix and wearing masks and gloves when you went out to feel all important like you were in a war. When the real target of Cobra was always the billions of people at the edge of starvation who are now dying at the tune of over 1 million people every 3 weeks. Cobra thanks you for what you've done. Continue the lockdowns while I depopulate the planet. Hail Cobra!
Globalists don't believe in Satanism. They believe they're contacting interdimensional aliens through the drug use. They're going to merge with the machines, blast off into hyperdimensional space, and that's why they're so crazy. That's why they want to get rid of us. That's why they're smiling and giddy and acting so nuts. They believe they are in contact with these entities and are being directed by them.
Oh, wow.
And the entities are telling us eternal life, total power, total control, everything you could ever want. Just kill everyone. Set up a world government. Build this design we're telling you. Build what we're telling you. Build this. Build this. Let us through. Build the Hadron Collider. Open the dimensions. Let us in. We're going to really help you. We're friendly little guys.
I found it. The source to humanity's next evolution. It rests here, in the pineal gland.
How do we destroy it?
With this,
It's beautiful.
it's an assortment of chemicals, one of which calcifies the pineal gland, among other things. I will spread it across the human population. This will ensure that communications will never reach the outer dimension.
But how do we do that?
I have a plan. A delicious glass of water.
Many of these genetic males now are turning into females. And quite frankly, if you're a genetic male, it'd be nice if you developed as a genetic male, and now we have a very strong in the environment that's effectively sex reversing.
It's not just a problem with frogs we should be concerned about. The water that's causing their problems is the same water that we're drinking and using to water our crops.
He's saying the chemicals are making people gay. Folks, it's making the frogs gay.
What?
leading a frontal assault on the lies of the New World Order. It's Steve Jones.
Well, Leo Zagami is in fuego. I was talking to somebody that's not a Christian the other day, that's a cultist like, oh, but the establishment's just using that as a template of control. What total delusion. If you actually looked at it mathematically, a view of blueprint is the same thing, whether it was real or whether somebody looked at the blueprint and built it. But of course we know they didn't just look at a blueprint and build it. You don't just guess a perfect blueprint, then somebody builds it perfectly. This is planned, this is a takeover, and I don't merge it in some new age alien cosmology. That's what it is. You've got the fallen one that's older than us, but not even as powerful as us. And God's allowing us to test us. And what do the occultists think? Because I ran into some occultists, but that was when I was younger. I never really joined it. I was just around some of it because they were trying to recruit me for the sex. But with you got it at the highest levels. And I don't judge you. You came out of it, and I respect that, and you're totally real. We know that. But what do they think? I mean, how do you not know? The feeling I have around Christ and around God and around doing the right thing is so empowering, so strong. Like, why would someone not want to be with Christ? The feeling around Satanist is like, I feel weak. I don't feel powerful. I feel like I'm losing myself. I feel God removing himself from my presence. I just don't get Satanism. I mean, I know they deceive people, but I know you're really into Satanism. You got a high-level P2 Lodge, Illuminati. And we're not making a big deal about this. We'll be like, oh, I have a real Illuminati member on today. No, this guy's been in the real Illuminati, okay? So how are they deceiving people? Because so many of them you are enlightened, they're smart, they're charming, and most of them don't get out of it like you did. How did you do it?
Well, the real Illuminati are very different from what people think. They are like businessmen, serious people, have a lot of money. The Academy of the Illuminati, for example, in Rome, is directed by a guy called Pier Giorgio Bassi, who is a lobbyist, a friend of the Vatican Secretary of State. They go in and out of Borgo Santo Spirito, the Jesuit headquarters, and they are very respected. And of course, they have very powerful friends. One of his best friends is John Podesta, for example. We were talking about the revelation. Remember that there will be a period of 42 months, but there will be also a period for us to decide, because the moment in which we get the mark, that's it. But there's also a confrontation which is going to be very harsh. And those like me and you, Alex, who will resist, will be given then a reward by God, because Jesus will make us his priest for the next 1,000 years. That is a reward. I mean, there is also a reward for those who sacrifice everything to the cause here. And so I invite people to read.
But I don't want that reward, but I do think about, as my knowledge exponentially as this comes, like boost, I can't believe my discernment now. My brain is like, talk about a supercomputer. I'm not bragging about this, but I can understand, like, what will it be like when the devil's actually ruling and we're still here before we're killed?
They will worship his image. They will worship the beast. There will be this antichrist figure that will be literally worshipped everywhere, and they will impose this worship on us, and we will refuse it. And we will refuse it, of course, because
and you don't get a hamburger, you don't get medicine, you don't get anything if you don't bow to it.
Yeah, well, we will not get, of course, access to the smart cities, or we will not be able to fly any longer around the world. We will be ghettoized and ostracized. So there will be a lot of sacrifices for Christians in the next 10 years. But those sacrifices...
When does all the head chopping start? And like the two prophets risen back up, Elijah and all that? Is that going to happen from your research?
All this will happen in let's say around 2025. We will really have this major unfolding very clearly in front of our eyes. And so the next 4 years are critical, and the next 10, of course, are the ones that will change the whole destiny of mankind as a species. Even.
God, it'll almost be a blessing to get my head chopped off and not be around these people anymore. God Almighty.
I don't think you have your head chopped. I think you have great faith, Alex, and I think that we both deserve to be here to embrace Christ's second presence on earth, because that's what's God's promise to us. And I think that the fate of the beast and the false prophet in that book of Revelation is not a very nice fate. I mean, they will end up in a lake of fire, and the dragon will eventually join them. So China will not have a great destiny in this whole thing.
What about the Battle of Armageddon then? Who's the army opposing Satan?
The army will shape together
Whenever I
in
finish
the next
this
4 to 5
bullshit.
years, when humanity will clearly see what is happening, when the results of this virus economically will be catastrophic,
And so it'll basically be humans against AI and the Satanists.
And the Satanists.
Because you read Revelation, it talks about swarms of metal locusts. That's the drones and like the armies, and their flesh getting eaten off, and whole mountains melting. I mean.
There will be even real locusts, because locusts are actually reappearing in Africa, and I think by this summer they will arrive also in Europe. So the plagues are really real here, and so we need to pray, we need to stay strong
and
together.
So all those people that are scared of the devil, they better get scared of God.
They need to pray, and they need to see inside themselves. They need to follow the way of the heart. They don't need to follow the way of the AI, of cyber Satan, of everything that is materialistic. Who cares if I am granted or not access to a smart city or to a concert or a stadium? We have to stay as far as possible from those places, and we have to be very careful in the next few months, because they are preparing already a second wave from Africa of the same virus.
I totally agree. They're going to go, oh, you didn't think it was deadly. The real wave is going to come. I see that as well.
They are actually modifying it in Africa as we are talking, Alex, because they want
they want to kill a bunch of Africans and then go, oh, look, oh, Africa, it's from them.
Not only that, they want this virus to become resistant to the heat. At the moment, like you said earlier in the show, this virus dies when we go outside in the heat. That's why Governor Newsom wants us indoors here in California. But when the next level of this virus will come around, well, that level of the virus will be resistant to heat, and so that will bring really, it's like the second time the Spanish influenza arrived.
Hey, Leo, I want you to move to Austin, because they're probably seriously, I don't want to they're trying to put me in prison right now. It's a bunch of stuff I can't talk about yet. We need to get you here in Austin more. We need to have you here with Owen, everybody. You can host Alex Jones' show. How's that sound? No, seriously, I'm just trying to, any general at the end of their operations, needs to have replacements, so. If you want to be next up in the dock, my friend, you want to step into the real firestorm.
What the?
We need you to move. I'm going to say it. You need to move here, Leo. I'm going to give you a job. Come move to Austin. I want you to.
God will show us the way. Show you the way, show me the way. And I think it will protect us in this battle.
We'll see. I just need more troops.
I love to be with you in Austin, and I think that that's why I'm here in the U.S. in the first place. Because if I was in Italy, imagine I would be like a bird I would be arrested.
Exactly. Well, believe me. No, real leadership is preparing the next assault long after you're gone. Leo, amazing. Dr. Nick Begich takes over. Apologize for making him hold. We love him.
God bless.
He's awesome. All right, God bless you, brother. Infowars.com. And keep us on air into the future. Get products at InfoWarsStore.com. Dr. Nick Begich takes over.
Back. It's good to be with you on this Friday afternoon, and Alaska, my house is being remodeled right now, so my studio is kind of under construction, but it's good to be here. And I was listening to this last couple of segments, and particularly interesting, thinking about
Armageddon.
I used to have a friend that said, Armageddon out of here, her attitude was she really didn't want to be here for the last couple of rounds, and she did.
I really hope this is the right place for this after your debunk. I'm going.
I can appreciate that sentiment. All hell's about to break loose, right? If it hasn't already, and we're seeing it around the world. And we get so excited about some of it. On the one hand, it's like horrible and terrible. On the other hand, there's things happening, and the signs are all around. So I'm always that pathological optimist, I call myself, because I just can't help it. but I want to talk a little bit about this whole thing, and in the context of some of my own experiences. You know, back in 1998, 1997, I was doing a lot of work in Europe with the European Parliament and some other people trying to get some regulation on the technologies that we're all talking about today. Now, this is like 25 years ago, right? 22, 23, 24 years ago. And at that time, there were some real opportunities to do some things. And I had given a lecture actually to a group of total globalists. I got to tell you, they were the globalists of globalists. In fact, it was called GLOBE. And it was global legislators from all over the world, from 44 governments, the top environmental legislators in one room at one time hearing me lecture about HAARP. And the way that happened is the Foreign Affairs Chairman of the European Parliament organized it, and he liked what we were doing. And he was really a great guy and helped us along the way and gave us an opportunity to give a presentation. And at the end of that presentation, it was interesting, it was a collection of people. You know, you had the government, you had what are called NGOs, non-governmental organizations, for those who never heard that phrase before. And these are the special interest groups of every kind to make up. And in that room at that time was a woman, and you can read about this actually in one of my books. It was called, the book is Earthrise and the Revolution. You can only get it on InfoWarsStore.com. So remember that for my books. The only place you can get hard copies anymore, unless they're used, is InfoWars Store. So Earthrise and Revolution tells the story of how I ran into Maria Begich. She came up to me after my presentation and said, Dr. Begich, what you just presented is the apocalypse. She says, my name is Maria Begich, and I trace my roots to the, I'm from the Orthodox Church, and we trace our roots to Revelation of John and the island of Patmos, the topic of the last half hour that Alex just ran. And the Orthodox Church split, for those that don't remember the history, it split from the Catholics in 1054, I believe it was 1054 AD, and they became the Eastern Orthodox or the Orthodox Church. And there's, I believe, 5 patriarchs now, and these are, patriarchs are equals. They don't have a pope, they got 5 players instead. And the first among the patriarchs is the Pope, or the patriarch from Istanbul, who at the time was a guy named Bartholomew. And Bartholomew was quoting from Revelations, and there's a section in Revelations, I'll find it during the break so I can quote it accurately, but it basically says that God will destroy those that destroy the earth. And this is a pretty interesting point because it comes out in Revelations just before Armageddon starts. And if you roll back to Genesis, to the beginning, we were created to be stewards for the earth, right? To be people that took care of our planet in a way that benefited us. Certainly the resources are here for us, so I really have a hard time with where the environmental community has taken us, because they've taken us down the road to fantasy land. And the reality is we are stewards. We have to have balance. I think most responsible people do. A lot of people haven't, and those people are going to pay the price. If you've destroyed this earth, God is clear about it, and you violated the primary principle of being a good steward. So, having said that, I want to put this back into context. So Maria said, you know, there's a conference coming, you gotta come, I really want you there. And she says, it's really an important one on the environment. So I said, all right, you know, to give a chance to talk about HAARP, maybe I'd go. But I hear this kind of stuff all the time, and that was no exception. And sure, people mean well, but don't always do well, but thank you for the invitation. And a couple weeks later, I had taken an invitation, actually speak in Germany at the same time. They plan way ahead. And then I get an invitation, and you'll appreciate these guys, you know, it's from Bartholomew, and it comes from Fritz Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. And for those who don't know him, look him up, part of the globalist program. And I thought, you know, hey, here's an opportunity to talk to a whole lot of people that maybe need to hear what I have to say. Maybe I should have taken this invitation. So I
Can I get my ship insurance
I
better?
took the invitation, I showed up to this conference, and as it was, I was small, couldn't really afford to make the flight to Greece and then jump on a plane to Istanbul and do all this stuff. So what happened? The Orthodox actually sponsored me, brought me over. I think I'm going to make a presentation, and that was not the case. I was a rapporteur for one of the work sessions. I got to meet a whole lot of people. That was very interesting. And a mixed group. You know, I met some of the very top of the top in 6-7 governments. the top of the European elite in a lot of cases, the European media. And what I learned in all of this was quite useful in helping me frame a different view of the world, because I'm in the inside looking out at the moment, at that moment. And it gave me a great opportunity to gain a lot of insight into how people think, because a lot of what we think, there's some guy out there, he's thinking evil, being evil, doing evil. They don't really come off that way. There's a lot of discernment, and Alex was speaking about that in the last segment. Discernment is the watchword for everyone these days, because that's the age that we're in. There's a lot of things going on, and we need to sort it out. And we heard trust the heart, right? I mean, start listening to the heart and the head, get these things working together in the right way, and lean in to the nature that we are, the spiritual nature that we are. I think this is a critical element in the 21st century, is to remember. You hear the elites, the globalists, people who don't know any better talking about evolving. We need to evolve to our higher whatever, and I don't believe that. I don't believe we need to evolve at all. I think we need to remember what we are as created human beings and begin acting that way and accepting that and recognize. Let me tell you what I believe the greatest blasphemy of all against the creation, against God is when you start to condemn yourself to the point of reducing yourself and keep reducing yourself and being self-critical and insecure and unloving to who you are and who others are. This is a damaging thing. Created in the image and likeness of God means we recognize things about us that need to improve, and we try. We continue to try our best. And I believe people try their best in the day we're in. If your intentions are there, doesn't mean we always do our best. But this is what it's about, ladies and gentlemen. It's about remembering what we are, not evolving. Remembering what we are. Acting with the power that was given to us at the point of creation. And growing in our knowledge and our ability to do something. And ask for the wisdom to do it right, because a bunch of knowledge and a bunch of information is worthless and dust unless you have the wisdom. And wisdom comes from the universe. It comes from the universal. It comes from God. It comes from that central source to who we are. If we can just remember and lift the fog from our lenses, we'll see it again, and we'll see it clearly, and we will rise into the potential that we are in the 21st century, because that's what's needed right now. In this hour is the awakening, and it is our individual awakening that changes who we are, that changes the way we see the world, and activates the creative power and allows that which we see coming through us, and others notice it immediately, because you cannot mistake when God comes through you. This is the tip of the spear. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It's a pleasure to be here on this Friday afternoon in most of the world.
The fight for the future is now. This is the War Room with Owen Schroyer.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the War Room. It is the 1st of May for the year 2020. My name is Harrison Smith. I'm in studio with my co-host, Owen Schroyer. We're mixing things up a little bit here. Owen was at a protest earlier today at the Texas Capitol, and we weren't quite sure what the schedule is going to be, so he's going to be in here for at least a little while. We're going to be joined by Greg Reese later in this hour. Tons of big news to get to, from Joe Biden to, of course, all of the nonsense going on with the coronavirus and attempts to reopen the country. How was the protest today, Owen, in downtown Austin?
It wasn't as well attended as the protests we've seen the last 2 Saturdays, where we had, I'd say, minimum 500 people at each one, and people traveling from all over the country. We did have a couple people traveling there to be there today, but not a big turnout. There are other rallies happening or other protests happening I've heard of today that we're going to try to monitor, including a rent strike, which is now going nationwide. These are some of the things that we've been warning you about, including meat shortages and other stuff that's in the news today. But, you know, we're not really dealing with the likes of a Governor Whitmer or Gavin Newsom, and so I think that the people in Texas aren't as energized to be out there all the time. We did kind of do phase 1 of a reopen here today in Austin, Texas as well, and just in the state of Texas. So I think because Governor Abbott hasn't really clamped down saying we're going to extend this stuff, instead he's kind of drawn back saying, okay, it's time to reopen. I think that protests or rallies in Texas will probably start to dwindle, and hopefully, I mean, I think we should open up everything now, but hopefully by next week or in 2 weeks, we're back to normal activity, bars, gyms, if there's sporting events, schools. I'd like to see normal activity return to Texas within 2 weeks.
Today was the day that a lot of these restrictions have been rolled back, and I know some of our crew, I think Savannah and Zach, went to check out the mall just to see if stores were reopening, and what they found was that all of the locally owned stores, all the mom and pop stores, were open, but all of the big corporations who have to get their orders from headquarters, they were saying you're not open yet. So even though they're allowed to be open, you know, the government says so, they are not choosing to open up yet because they're waiting on orders from their corporate overlords. So, you know, if you're a small business owner, now's the time to get out there and take up that market share. And we'll be talking a lot about all this sort of stuff as the show goes on, but I just pulled up this headline as we started the show. America's billionaires added $282 billion to their total wealth in 23 days during the coronavirus crisis, a report claims. So while there are, I mean, just insane numbers of unemployment, insane numbers of small businesses absolutely going down, apparently the rich are still getting richer. Amazon and Walmart are making out like bandits while the rest of us are struggling to survive. But
don't forget about, you know, Bill Gates too, but you know, you personally, I mean, you've been dying to get a haircut.
Oh my God, the American people have been dying for me to get a haircut. My wife, however, is happier than she's ever been. So,
I mean, I didn't really notice until we looked at the HD monitor here, but I mean, folks, we have to open up the barbershops.
It's a matter of national security.
Harrison is a very, I mean, you know, he doesn't like to rub people the wrong way or break any rules, so he hasn't had the black market haircut.
That's right. I wouldn't trust it with
I am a little skeptical where you got the new tie, though, considering that the mall just reopened today.
This is actually a gift from our friend Tony Arterburn when he was hosting the David Knight Show a little while ago there at Wise Wolf Radio.
You know, you did mention, though, it is a key time, I think, for smaller businesses to... It is a weird situation they have at the mall where now if you go to a small business, you can actually shop instead of, you know, the big stores that are still closed, obviously. There may be some other outlying reason for that. But, you know, small businesses are the ones that have been suffering the most. A lot of them, I think, we're wondering if they're even going to be able to make it back. And so this could be a pivotal time for small business this week and the next week if they have a little bit of an edge with some of these other big box stores that aren't reopening at malls and such because they've been told, oh, no, we're going along with the panic.
Yeah, and, you know, the thing I'm looking forward to is the roaring back. I mean, we've been hurt. We've been knocked down. The stock market's taken a hit. But once they take the shackles off, I can't wait to see the American people roar back to work and get this country going again. Now, hopefully, looking towards the future and going, let's get manufacturing back home. Let's cut our ties with China. Let's get it done. All right, folks, we're back with the War Room. Harrison Smith here sitting with Owen Schroyer, who will be with us for as long as he deigns, as long as he chooses to grace us with his presence. But he's got always working behind the scenes and got a lot of other stuff to be doing for preparations for this weekend and further. Of course, today's top story is Biden. It's Joe Biden, the allegations made against him. We're going to show you some of the clips from the interview he did earlier today on Morning Joe with Mika Brzezinski, where he confronted some of these allegations for the first time. I'd also like to go through and sort of enumerate the differences between the two allegations because they are stark and really tell a massive story, not just the response to the allegations, but the allegations themselves. And we'll get into all of that over here in the next few segments. But first I want to go to this clip. This is from the interview. This is Joe Biden being asked whether women should be given the benefit of the doubt. And of course, he's just been accused of pretty egregious behavior and a pursuing cover-up. So here he is. Here's Joe Biden being asked about his sexual allegation. Clip 11.
I think they should do an FBI investigation. We did that for Anita Hill. It took 2 days.
On FBI.
Number two, most importantly, Anita Hill was vilified when she came forward by a lot of my colleagues. Character assassination. I wish.
Wait a second. He just said he wanted an FBI investigator. Wait, y'all can pull that. I'm sorry, that's the wrong clip. I'm sorry. This is an oversight. That wasn't him talking about his own allegation. That was him talking about the Kavanaugh allegation and saying that he wanted the FBI to investigate. I'm sorry. That's our mistake. That's our mistake. Let's go to this next clip. This is him talking about what's really behind this abusive behavior of women. Let's play this, Joe Biden.
Do you think this time it's different, that we are seeing with the Me Too movement something that is truly going to lead for change for women?
Look, at its root, this is all about the abuse of power. It's all about the abuse of power. Whether it's Harvey Weinstein or the guy who, the plumber who has a secretary he harasses. It's all about the abuse of power.
Interesting.
Number two, women should be believed.
They should be. You know what? I hate to say it. That was a mistake. That was also Joe Biden on Kavanaugh. So, geez, I must have gotten those interview clips mixed up. But that was Joe Biden when he was asked about Kavanaugh. Now, and to me, the interesting thing is, and this highlights what I was just talking about, if you look at the two accusations, just to sum it up, Kavanaugh was accused of basically drunken rambunctiousness, going a little too far, maybe some misconduct as a teenager, you know, a little bit of fooling around and going too far. Joe Biden, on the other hand, is accused as a senator of basically being brought a woman for him to do with as he pleased, and when she fought back, her life was destroyed, and there was a total cover-up following it. So when Joe Biden is talking about Kavanaugh and says it's all about abuse of power, well, in one situation you have some drunken teenagers, not a lot of power play dynamics going on there. On the other hand, Joe Biden's accusation actually is about his abuse of power that he's been given. What do you think about that?
Well, I do believe it's now 8 women who put their name on the dotted line accusing Joe Biden of sexual assault and activity. And now this story just came out today from Law and Crime. Eva Murray says Joe Biden sexually harassed her when she was 14. And this kind of goes right along with what we've seen from Joe Biden. She's at an event. Biden shows up, sees a young girl. Naturally, he begins to flirt and hit on this young girl and compliments her breasts. Again, that's typical stuff for Joe Biden. He asks 12-year-olds to come back behind the stage with them at, campaign events and sick stuff like that. Sniffs little girls' hair, gropes little children on television. So this is right up Joe Biden's alley. But honestly, Harrison, I thought you were going to go a different direction, because when you look at the Kavanaugh accusations, really all you have is accusations. You don't have anything to fall back on. Nothing at all. And, I'm not leaping headlong into these Joe Biden accusers, but there is actual evidence that you can fall back on that would at least lend you to say, hey, there is something there. Now, is it assault or the allegation? I mean, you can have that debate, but there's something there. There's something to look into. The TV tape of Tara Reid, I guess it was her mom on, I think it was Meet the Press or Larry King Live or something. There's been some other reports filed that you can go back and check the record. Neighbors came out that were Tara Reid's neighbors and just talked to media saying, actually, we remember when this happened. She was telling us all about it. So you have stuff, names, dates, some sort of evidence to say, okay, well, I'm hearing a real accusation here. As compared to Kavanaugh, you really had nothing. You had a whiny bimbo looking like she was under mind control. Little Christine Blasey Ford.
Well, you remember the way her accusation came about was not her coming to the media and them spreading it just her words verbatim. She went to Nancy Pelosi, who then got in contact with Dianne Feinstein through Adam Schiff, and they helped orchestrate this whole rollout of this entire narrative. Whereas this woman, Tara Reid, seems to just on the first place that would accept her. Apparently, she'd asked other outlets if she could come on and say her story. No one let her. I think it was OANN that eventually said, yeah, come on. And she just sat there and told her story. So the way it's rolled out, the way it's been covered, I mean, everything about it just shows the dichotomy between the sides and who's actually going for the truth and who's just using this as political fodder. It's fairly obvious.
Well, and that's what's really sick about this is the politics of it are just exposed again.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the Democratic left now, the progressive liberal side of things. The facts really don't matter. It's all about their agenda. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander. The Tara Reid story is just another example. But, really, I think we have to be asking ourselves, it's sad, obviously, what we're talking about, but politically, I mean, for real, what is the Joe Biden recovery story? How does Joe Biden recover from this? And now that you have Mika Brzezinski and some other people giving Joe a hard time for this, Chunk Yogurt over at Young Turks, I don't see a recovery for Joe Biden. I just don't see it. To me, it's a sacrificial lamb story now. Because how is this going to live up on the national stage when all of America's actually watching and Trump is actually on the debate stage? Yeah, they can have their moderators and, they'll try to stop things from getting said, but they can't shut Trump's mic off.
Right.
They can't even shut Biden's mic off. I mean, who knows what Biden might slip up and say.
Right. Well, and of course for Kavanaugh, you had the hearing, which was almost a preordained, an already set up, established place where you could hash this out in a court-like setting. Well, there's not really that for the American presidential campaign. So are we going to convene some sort of thing like that where Joe Biden has to go in front of the Senate and his accuser gets, a couple hours to sit there and tell her story? I mean, that would be the equivalent thing, equivalency. That would be the appropriate thing. Of course, Joe Biden did not call on the FBI to investigate him like he called on the FBI to investigate Kavanaugh, and like Kavanaugh invited the FBI to investigate. Remember when his accusations came out, the first thing Kavanaugh did was says, I want the FBI investigating this because I'm innocent and the FBI will prove it.
Yeah, but Joe Biden said that his story was hardly investigated by the New York Times. So
yes,
so
thoroughly.
But I have a feeling right now what we're seeing is they're setting up Joe Biden to be a sacrificial lamb because right now the Democrats have nothing to energize them. The average member of the base is like 1984, peon, and they'll go along with the 5 minutes of hate. So I have a feeling they're building up Biden to be a sacrificial lamb right now just to give their Democrat voting base something to be energized over leading into November. Just anything. Slowly roll out how Joe Biden's a creep, and then the girls will get younger and younger, and it'll get worse. And then they'll flip it. Biden will be the sacrificial lamb, and then they'll be the heroes. Oh, we kept Biden, another rich white male who's abusing women left and right, and we got him out of there. Oh, we Democrats did it again, even though they just, allowed all of it to go down and then just used it as a fake victory. So I don't know. I just don't see a recovery story politically for Joe Biden. I just do not see it.
I don't see it either, and now you've got me worried about an article, a headline I saw today about Hillary Clinton waiting in the wings. And you see these articles every once in a while, and I just sort of roll my eyes. But now that you're talking about this, and now, you can sort of play it out in your head and go, okay, what is Joe Biden's path to recovery from this? And it doesn't seem like there is one. It's the Democrats are scrambling behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen. They're scrambling. They're desperate. God knows what they're going to try to do. But I would be willing to bet money it wouldn't help you or your family, whatever they choose at the end of the day. Now, when we get back, we'll figure it out. I'll have a word with the control room, and we'll get the actual clips of the interview with Joe Biden and Mika Brzezinski earlier today, which is, if anything, more absurd than the clips I showed you earlier. Embarrassing, actually. Prepare to be embarrassed on behalf of Joe Biden when we get back on the other side, and I'll show you some of these clips of the interview he did earlier today. This is The War Room. Go to InfoWarsStore.com to support what we do here, and don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss this. All right, folks, we're sticking with this Biden debacle that has to have the Democrats absolutely panicking as they're scrambling behind the scenes trying to figure out what the hell to do with this presidential candidate that not only can't stay awake during his own endorsement by Hillary Clinton, is just falling apart at the seams, and now has this very credible, especially in the realm of media-supported accusations, a very credible accuser coming out and saying that that she was sexually assaulted by Joe Biden as a underling of his. Just disgusting stuff. And one of the rhetoric that they use is not always incorrect, right? When Kavanaugh was being accused, it was totally baseless. There was no evidence. There was no reason to believe Christina Blasey Ford. Even if you did believe it, it was questionable as to whether what she was alleging was even really something that serious. I mean, there were so many questions about it. But what did they kept saying, you have to believe women, or else you will discourage other women from coming forward.
Believe all women.
Believe all women. And the reason for that was because, look, there could be other women out there, and if they are thinking, hey, I'm going to stand up to this big, powerful man and tell my story, they're going to be dissuaded of that if they're seeing how women are being treated. Well, how is Tara Reade being treated? In a realm where Joe Biden, as senator, has, these young women essentially brought to him to be exploited, there are most likely more than one. And as they look around right now at the media landscape and they see the New York Times and CNN and all these places covering up the Tara Reade accusation, they're saying to themselves, I'm not going to put my name out there. I'm not going to, say anything about this, or they're going to treat me like they're treating Tara Reade. So, I mean, the hypocrisy, it's not just, obvious, evident, and upsetting. It's actually damaging to what they propose to be, or what they purport to be their own causes that they support. So, just another thing to consider here as we venture down this disgusting road. Now I want to play this clip first because it's probably the most uncomfortable. Get ready to cringe, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joe Biden this morning. This is the actual interview, no tricks this time. This is the actual interview this morning of Joe Biden on Morning Joe, and he's asked about searching for just the term Tara Reade in his University of Delaware records. And here's his response. This is clip 10.
I'm just talking about her name, not anybody else in those records. A search for that. Nothing classified with the president or anybody else. I'm just asking, why not do a search for Tara Reade's name in the University of Delaware records?
Oh man, that's awkward. That's like, I mean, you don't even have a response to that. It's just speechlessness.
And keep in mind, Biden was actually the most unpopular Democrat during the primary process. I mean, I went to, I don't know how many debates and Democrat events. Biden supporters were almost never even found. I mean, Klobuchar had people traveling. Yang had people at events. I mean, Elizabeth Warren signs you'd even see in Texas. So, I mean, Biden was like the only candidate that had no grassroots support whatsoever. Now, here he is stuck in this precarious position, being forced to defend himself. I just don't see, but what's even more sick about this is that the Democrat Party is doing this right in front of everybody. So they're stealing the vote even worse than they did. Because, Bernie Sanders kind of had to, he had to capitulate last time around, and he had to capitulate again this time around too. But they forced out Tulsi Gabbard. They basically forced out Marianne Williamson. I'm not saying she's a real candidate to win, but they forced her out. They pretty much forced Yang out too. Yang had a lot of support. So they went with the least popular candidate. Now they're in a precarious position, forced to defend the accusations against him. They can't do it. He's falling off the ledge. So the Democrats are going to have to come forward and just force somebody out there. It just shows how big of a fraud everything the Democrats stand for is. Doesn't it? Oh, we want a woman, or we want a person of color, all of this different stuff. And then they go with Joe Biden. Oh, me too, believe all women, oh, okay. And then, oh, except if it's a Joe Biden accuser. I mean, remember the Al Franken? I mean, look, Al Franken had a picture of himself pretending to grope Julianne Tweedy's breasts. They threw him out of office. I mean, but Biden gets to get away with this? Yeah. And it just shows the media control, the frauds of the Alyssa Milanos of the world. I remember when I was watching some movie, Alyssa Milano happened to be in it. She walks around in some scene with a bunch of chicks with their breasts hanging out. Like, give me a break, Alyssa Milano.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, there is almost nothing better in the last, politically, in the last couple months than Alyssa Milano being confronted with the fact that she is supporting Joe Biden and just being forced to just recognize her hypocrisy live on air on that interview. I mean,
it doesn't matter to her.
No, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter to the people who follow her. In fact, what was it? Fire Chris Hayes was trending on Twitter because he dared to even broach the subject. I mean, they take hypocrisy to a weaponized level. And
you know what? And before disgusting. I forget, because I will forget, they made that thing, the hashtag Fire Chris Hayes trend, because Twitter manipulates all this.
Of course.
They also had the trend Michigan terrorists yesterday. Right. I was so livid at this because I myself have been victimized by terrorism coming from the political left in this country. I've been sexually assaulted. I've been violently assaulted. I've had my rights suspended and abused. I've been arrested. I've been tortured by these political terrorists. And for me to, and by the way, how many shots were fired? How many people got hurt in Michigan yesterday at that protest? None. Yeah. Zip, zilch, zero. But they're labeled as terrorists. Meanwhile, the leftist agitators go out and assault people, burn property, destroy property, set buildings on fire, attack their political opposition, and they're never labeled terrorists. I'm sorry, I know I'm getting off track here. I was just so livid at that. I'm so sick of the peaceful political operatives in this country like myself and others getting labeled as terrorists when we have done nothing violent ever in our lives. Meanwhile, the political left is literally calling for violence, violent in the streets all day long, and then somehow they get to use the word terrorist whenever they want, even though there's no violence and they're violent all day long. So I know that really angered me.
You're skipping ahead here, Owen, because I'm right on the same level with you, and we have a lot of that type of stuff going on with the terrorists, what they're calling the white national terrorists, the way the FBI is treating it, the way that now this is being written into law. It's all about constricting your ability to hold points of view that are at odds with the people who want to destroy you, right? Having your own guns, having free speech, being able to do these sorts of things that America was founded on. This is being considered terrorism now, and that is one of our big stories today, and we'll be getting into to all that sort of stuff, because I totally agree with you. And in fact, one of the most apparent examples of this was, of course, the 20,000 plus strong rally in Virginia, saying don't try to pass gun control. It was heavily armed, 20,000 people. They could have, the violence they could have committed, they could have literally gone in, done whatever they wanted. They could have taken over the state house. That was the amount of manpower that was there. Instead, you had no injuries. You had one arrest for one woman who had a mask on, and that was it. Totally peaceful, totally law-abiding. They're considered terrorists. And then what happens? They pass all the gun control laws anyway. So it's like, look, we're trying to be peaceful here. We're trying to show you that we're not messing around, but you got to stop trying to take our rights away. But they don't stop. They keep pressing down, and now they're trying to eliminate our ability to even peacefully assemble and peacefully try to agitate for our rights. And so they are laying the groundwork for violent revolution. They're laying the groundwork for exactly what, once again, they say they're trying to prevent. It's just hypocrisy abounds. It's ridiculous. And we'll get into that and more with Greg Reese on the other side. Don't go anywhere, folks. It's the War Room. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are squeezing them in here. We got Greg Reese, Owen Schroyer, and myself, Harrison Smith, behind the desk at the War Room at Infowars.com. Band.video support what we do here by going to InfoWarsStore.com. Take advantage of some of our sales. We're getting a lot of press these days, boys. It looks like our boss, Alex Jones, is trending on Twitter. Greg, why don't you tell us why Alex Jones is trending on Twitter right now?
I think it was a few days ago. I think it was the day before yesterday. I'm not exactly sure when, but I remember I caught it live on air. It's the perfect meme for a collapse of the economy and the collapse of the food chain, the cannibal meme. This is, Alex just said recently, this is going to be as big as the gay frogs meme.
That was my next question is, do you think this is another gay frogs meme? Because it's the same type of thing, that it's like the gay frogs, it's a funny meme, you can laugh at it, it's hilarious, we get a kick out of it, but at the same time, what it's addressing is a very serious issue, which is pesticide runoff altering the hormones of the natural world and destroying entire species by manipulating their sex organs. So, like, that's a serious thing. It's anybody who's an environmentalist or just cares about human life on Earth should care about this. But yeah, you can still laugh at Alex Jones, going off on it because it's funny. Is this kind of the same type of thing where, yeah, it's funny to hear Alex Jones say he's going to eat his neighbors? Like, okay, I'm glad everybody gets a kick out of that. At the same time, look at the meat shortages. Look at the food shortages. Look at the supply chain malfunctioning. This is not a funny thing, really, when you think about it.
It looks like evil people are trying to starve millions of us. That's what it looks like.
It looks an awful lot like that. Owen?
I'm just amazed at how quickly the media gets activated and spins things. And their attention to detail when it comes to InfoWars is matched by nobody. And I'm telling you, we've got people that listen to, all the InfoWars shows almost every day. They won't even miss a minute. But then there's the people at Media Matters and Right Wing Watch. They watch them twice, 3 times, 4 times, looking for anything that they can put out there. And I think it's even more sick because, as you know, I went back to St. Louis for a couple days earlier this week to be with friends and family. Guess what is published in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch the day I arrive? Media Matters, Owen Schroyer, violating coronavirus lockdown, spreading disease. Literally in the St. Louis papers the day I arrived. Quoting Media Matters, saying I'm spreading disease by violating, making me out to be the demon. And I'm just sitting here thinking, There's no way Media Matters is actually that in tune to Owen Schroyer's activity that they knew I'd be in St. Louis, and so they'd put a story in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch knowing that I'm extremely popular in St. Louis, so they want to make sure to sully whatever public image they can of me in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Of course, everybody in St. Louis sees it and is like, what the heck? How did you end up in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch today? But I'm telling you, they watch Alex Jones 10 times a day just to find one thing that they can try to twist that he said and then say, oh, see, this is Alex Jones. This is him in a nutshell. He said 5,000 different things in his life and he's very complex, but nope, this is Alex Jones right here. This is him. He's a gay fraud.
Yeah, and that reveals another thing too, is that if it was true that for 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, the Alex Jones show just spread lies, spread right-wing propaganda, like they would be writing 10 articles a day about stuff that we say, but instead they have to watch the whole show and they're like, dang it, it's all facts, it's all true, everything he says is true. They just have to find the thing that, oh well, this is a little bit ridiculous. Yes, it is true, but it's a little bit ridiculous, so we'll push this. It's almost, what they leave out is that, well, but for 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, he's telling the truth, and there's nothing we Media Matters can say to try to disclose him. The other interesting thing is, like, when we got kicked off of Twitter last week or whatever it was, the people who hate us, the right-wing watch and the Media Matters, actually know more than we do about that situation. We have to go to their articles to see the reason why we were kicked off, because Twitter will tell them. They won't tell us. We're just kicked off with no word. But
and they never ask for a quote either.
Right.
I mean, I always give the only one guy. I mean, I'll give him credit. Why do you give him any credit? I'm just telling you the truth. The only guy that ever asked me for a quote is Jared Holt. He's the only guy who's ever asked me for a quote ever when writing a story. Now, most of the times his editors chop it up and he can't even get the quote out anyway. But I at least appreciate for him for trying. All these people that write articles about us, they never reach out. I guarantee you. All the people that wrote stories about Alex Jones getting ready to eat his neighbors, not a single person reached out for a quote. Not a single one of them. Because it's not about actually quoting us and getting the story right. It's all about making us out to be the boogeyman, hoping that, should you ever be in the arena, hypothetically, politically speaking, with that person, that you've already destroyed their character so they can't have a victory.
Yeah, and I know, Greg, you wear this as a badge of honor like we all do, that, look, they are going after us so hard because we're on the right track. To put it as Alex Jones says, you get the most flack while you're over the target. I know you get a lot of flack too, but you're over there flying under the radar. It's great.
Yeah, I still have a YouTube channel, and I just had another video deleted in the past 12 hours. They just deleted the true agenda of the World Health Organization, which can still be found on banned.video.
Well, now wait, that's interesting because YouTube has come out and said anything that contradicts the World Health Organization will be taken down. So basically by alchemy, what they've said is this is the authority, now questioning the authority will get you taken down. This is a way these institutions become untouchable, and we take away our First Amendment right to criticize the people that rule over us. So you criticizing the WHO, it's not about what they're saying, it's about criticizing the organization itself will no longer be allowed.
Yeah. And their whole illusion is falling apart. It's like the internet is not just InfoWars, but the internet is full of thousands of citizen journalists, normal, regular people just talking like normal, regular people. And so the mainstream news media, full of all these fake-sounding people, is really starting to wear off, I think.
Like this, Greg Reese.
Right. It used to work.
Normal.
If you don't talk like this, then you shouldn't be trusted.
And that's what I was saying yesterday, too. This whole, everywhere you go, it's all about marketing for the coronavirus. And there's, soft music playing, it's nice images. It's like, we all know you're struggling during the coronavirus, but we just want you to know that Big Pharmaceutical has your back, and Coca-Cola has your back. And it's like all of this stuff. I want to do the same thing. It's like, it's like, chop off your arm, because people out there were born with only one arm, and so you should stand in solidarity. It's like nobody who was born with one arm would ever advocate for you chopping your arm off, but it doesn't matter. If you sell it right and you give it the right music with the nice twist, then hey, maybe I should be chopping my arm off
yeah.
over here. And you think that's crazy? Well, maybe there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, the music said so, right? That person had the right voice that they're talking in, and they'll do it for anything, right? I keep hearing on the podcast I listen to, I keep hearing advertisements for like hair dye, and it's like, now we're more stressed than ever, you know. But I mean, you have to take care of yourself. Buy our hair dye, and it's like, what does this have to do with like us being, you know, you're just trying to sell me hair dye. Quit with the BS. Sell me hair dye.
Everything is a spin-off of the coronavirus now, which makes it more deadly and real than it ever was. It like hammers it home. It's like an amplification of the propaganda.
And the people are doing it too. Like all my YouTube videos are full of like, you know, small business ads now, all, you know, like you said, amplifying coronavirus, COVID. It's we're doing it to ourselves. If there's anyone to blame for the downfall of America, it's going to be the people. I mean, that's what makes me the maddest, is just seeing how many people are busy policing other people.
Well, and let's be clear, we're not calling for violence here. That's why what happened in Michigan was actually so key. This is like if you're you know, downtown or something, walking with your family or your wife, and you're in kind of a bad area or an alley, and somebody comes out with a knife and is basically like, hey, you know, give me your wallet, and you got a gun on you. Well, you know, you got two options. You can kind of just flash, you know, the butt of the gun and be like, hey, you know, scoot along, show them the gun.
Wrong target here.
Yeah, and they'll probably be like, okay, they back up. Or you can pull the gun out, just pop the person, kill them right there on the street. You know, both ways to get the job done. But we're not at that point yet. We're showing them the gun. We're saying, all right, hey, look, you know, look, like you're trying to rob me. I got a gun right here. It's loaded, so maybe you should back off. Well, they want to keep trying to rob us. You know, eventually it's not going to be show them the gun anymore.
Right, and of course this is the thing they fear the most, which is why they're passing gun control laws. And Canada just passed military assault rifle weapons laws after their shootings. Folks, you're back with the InfoWars Brain Trust here on the War Room. Harrison Smith with Owen Schroyer and Greg Reese. Greg asked the question during the break, what's Donald Trump been up to? In fact, I think the way you put it was, has Donald Trump done anything good today? 'Cause that's where you look. Every day, Donald Trump gives us a little morsel of goodness to remind us that not everybody in power is stinking of evil. Here is the tweet from President Donald Trump, May 1st at 7:42 a.m. He says, quote, "The governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people, but they're angry. They want their lives back again safely. See them, talk to them, make a deal." So that's President Trump tweeting in favor of or in support of the protesters at the Michigan State House there, who went in armed basically to say the Constitution is not done away with just because you think there's an emergency going on.
And I think too, and I want to go back to my point about this, you know, if you were in a situation, let's say with, again, your kids or your wife or something, you know, in a bad area, and someone comes up to you with a knife and is, you know, attempting to rob you, I think we would all agree we would rather de-escalate the situation by showing them a gun. I don't think any of us would like to pull out the gun and have to shoot a guy on the street, potentially killing him, deal with the cops, deal with all that. We don't want to deal with that. We'd rather just say, hey, we can take you out right now. We don't want to. Just leave us alone. Go away. Well, but again, at some point, if the person doesn't drop the knife, if the person doesn't go away, if they keep harassing you, you're forced to ultimately shoot that person to protect yourself and your loved ones. None of us want to, I don't think anybody wants to get to that point.
Nobody wants to get mugged, right?
The people in Michigan don't want it to get to that point. That's why they're saying, hey, they're not even threatening. They're saying, hey, look, you're taking our freedoms. Hey, look, you know, hey, you're trying to rob me. I got a little gun right here. All right, it's time for you to back off. I mean, what I'm afraid of is that they're using, because here's what we always have to remember. They have operatives in place that they use as bait to get to their next level. So they could use Whitmer or Newsom or something to agitate the people so much that they force violence. Where citizens feel like violence is my last and only option at this point. We don't want to get there. And then they can say, see, we told you, they're terrorists, they're violent, they're bad people, white nationalists, this, that, the other thing. And then it's just like, you're not allowed to stand up for your rights. They won't mention how your freedoms are being ripped away. It'll be all about how you're bad. That's why when I saw that hashtag Michigan terrorists yesterday, I was so irate, because it just showed me the future. It's like, okay, we're planning on setting you guys up, just like we set up Flynn and Roger Stone and Trump and everybody else. We're planning on setting you up, and once we get to that point and you're forced to, you know, do what you got to do, then we're going to twist it and say, see, you're bad, you were the terrorist, just like we said.
Well, and they're also already laying that groundwork for the racism aspect, where they've already got the FBI says their big focus is white national terrorism. I covered it on Monday when I was hosting the War Room, that Beto went on an interview and said, you know, Trump's rhetoric emboldens white nationalist terrorists. Well, they bring him back to spread this sort of, to lay the seeds in people's minds that if you're protesting for your rights, really you are helping, or you're a part of, or you can at least be portrayed as a white nationalist racist terrorist, even though you're literally just like, I want to go to work, I want to have the rights guaranteed to me by my Constitution. That is now being, you know, intricately intertwined with white nationalism and you know, domestic terrorism in general. It's disgusting. Greg, do you have something else?
The saddest thing to me is, once again, like the reaction I'm seeing in the people.
Right.
Like these people are so lost that they're willing to take this tiny little morsel of ego boost of saying, I'm doing my part. I'm a good person. I'm thinking about others. I'm saving lives by basically just being compliant and submitting to the government. What they need to realize is they're not saving any lives. They're in fact allowing all of this to be possible. They're allowing millions of people to starve to death in third world nations. They're allowing Bill Gates to bring Monsanto seeds into Africa and gentrify the whole country with McDonald's and Pepsi and Coca-Cola. They're allowing mass death and destruction, and all the while they're saying, I'm doing my part.
Right, because they're given a little, it's almost like a it's a bow, right? It's a little thing that you do, a little gesticulation that makes you feel good about yourself, kind of like, you know, if you're an inveterate sinner and then you go and say, oh, please forgive me, and then you feel good about all the sins that you did, right? It reminds me a lot of the climate change emergency and recycling. It's like, okay, you can recycle the plastic that you produce, but you're doing nothing to prevent the massive amount of destruction that's going on across the world. But it makes you feel good when you recycle. It makes you feel like you've done something, and then you can look at the people that don't recycle and go, that's the bad guy, I'm doing my part.
And you know, really, I think that same logic applies to so many things, which makes it illogical. But it's the same logic. It's like, oh, if I go against Trump, I'm doing my duty. Like, if I just stand up against Trump, no matter what it is, facts be damned, I'm doing my duty. I'm a good world citizen. I'm a hero. And it's like they buy into that mentality. And I think, Greg, you're right. The coronavirus is just kind of the most easy to see example of it when you walk around. And I mean, I don't wear a mask, but you see people wearing a mask, and then they look at you like you're trying to kill their grandma. Wearing a mask.
Yeah, it's outrageous. And these are the same people that, in my opinion, they've never bothered to really look into things, especially themselves. Because once you start looking into yourself and you recognize your own weaknesses and your own strengths, then you're not going to be easily duped into this stupid idea that by staying in your homes you're being a good person. You'll know what being a good person is and what being a bad person is, because you'll have recognized your own mistakes, you'll have recognized your own flaws, and you'll seek to correct them. You don't need the television to tell you.
Yeah, I think I retweeted, but somebody had a quote where, you know, they asked us if we would be willing to stay inside to flatten the curve. Everybody in America, pretty much, us included, I think, said, you know what, I'm willing to do that. We'll stay at home for a little bit and help the curve flatten. And they've taken that willingness for Americans to sacrifice, you know, take on some sacrifice for themselves in order to, help the community weather this storm. Everybody's willing. They've taken that willingness and weaponized it and taken advantage of it and is now abusing it to the point that we no longer want to, and they're saying, no, now you have to. They've taken this willingness of us to say, okay, we'll sacrifice a little bit of ourselves for the greater good, and they've weaponized it and they've increased it and they've just taken advantage of it, like they take advantage of it like the asylum program, where we say, yeah, we'd love to, if there's people in trouble, and they take advantage of that and suddenly start sending over people that don't qualify, but it's just this constant taking advantage of the goodwill of the American people to destroy them.
And there's no turning back from this one. The damage that's been done on this already, and I don't even think any of us completely comprehend it. But the damage that's been done on this already, I mean, there's no turning back from this. There's no, okay, what's next? I mean, they got to just push through on this.
Yeah, the world is definitely going to be, I mean, if we ever even come out of this coronavirus. I mean, as of right now, they keep saying, 2021, 2024, like, well, you can never come out of it. But, you know, it's like a lot of people will be afraid to say this, fear of backlash or maybe even government punishment or something. But, you know, if anybody's been the exact wrong example of this quarantine, it's me. I've flown about 8 times. I've been to 5 rallies. I've never stopped shaking people's hands. I've never worn a mask. And this is all just this calendar year, 2020, which it's pretty much 100% confirmed coronavirus has been here this entire calendar year. So if it was as bad as they say, I would probably be dead. And I'm still here, breathing just fine, feeling better than ever, got some sun today. So they also don't even want that out there as proof that the coronavirus is not as bad as they're telling us. And then, see, it's just crap like this. Like, Owen Schroyer coughed around police officers. You know, Timothy Johnson, gosh, I know he's listening right now, too. You're lucky I'm too busy to sue your ass to hell, okay? Because you have printed more fake news about me than anyone else in this world, and you've never asked for comment once. Never once, Timothy Johnson. Never once. And I'm almost at my wit's end with you, Timothy. So just realize the next fake news story you print about me may be the last one you print without getting a lawsuit, okay? Because I'm about at my wit's end with your fake news and your lies, okay? And you know what? I made a joke about you looking like you like to eat excrement off other people's butts. Maybe it's not such a joke because maybe you really are into that.
You know, this goes back to what we were talking about just previously, where these people go, you know, I'm staying inside. And I read somebody, you know, one of these liberals going, you know, no matter what it takes, I'll do this. And they act like they're sacrificing something by going along with the herd. The reality is, if you go against the mainstream narrative, if you do what we here at InfoWars do and go after the truth rather than what you're being told, the entire system tries to destroy you. We really do make sacrifices every single day of our loved ones, of our ability to get jobs because of the positions that we hold. Meanwhile, we're being told by the people that run the system, I'm sacrificing so hard for you right now. It's infuriating, hypocritical, and endless. And
yeah, we're all sacrificing somehow. Like everybody, because we're all losing. That's what that
ridiculous.
means.
Well, thank you for joining us, Greg Reese. Find his videos at band.video. Share that stuff.
Shad Sullivan, Regional Director of RCALF USA, is a 5th-generation Colorado rancher and recently delivered this message.
Hey everybody, this is Shad Sullivan coming to you from the headwaters of Bitter Creek, Archer County, North Texas. We have to talk. State officials will be assisting to help identify potential alternative markets if a producer is unable to move animals, and if necessary, advise and assist on depopulation and disposal methods. Ladies and gentlemen, we are plowing under vegetable crops from coast to coast. We are euthanizing millions of chickens. We are aborting sows and burying feeder pigs. We are dumping milk by the hundreds of thousands of gallons, and now they are preparing us to depopulate the fat cattle ready to harvest because of a bottleneck created by the effects of COVID. This thing hasn't been created by COVID, but the effects of COVID and the logistics therein. Yesterday, the first shipment of imported beef from the country of Namibia hit the shores of the United States of America. And yet this morning, they are telling us to prepare to euthanize harvest-ready cattle. It is time we get food on the shelves, because if you're not concerned about this food supply problem, you better be. We have a huge supply and demand of food across this nation. We can feed the world ourselves, and yet we're destroying our harvests. At the same time, we are importing beef from other countries, beef that is less regulated than our beef, less safe, not as high quality a product, and yet it's happening. At the same time, they are preparing for us to euthanize our harvests. That doesn't sound like sustainability to me, but it is part of the overall goal to vertically integrate your food system. You see, they cannot have control of the people unless they have control of the food, the water, the land, production. It is time we get back to work. We are of, by, and for the people. This is not Nancy Pelosi's country. This is not Donald Trump's country. This is your country, and you're going to go hungry.
And while American farmers are destroying their harvests, U.S. beef is exported to China. U.S. meat plants are closing at a rapid rate, including Cargill Meat, who supplies 22% of the U.S. meat market, and who partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2018 to end livestock production, while expanding the production of genetically modified soy in Africa. Reporting for Infowars.com, this is Greg Reese.
Yet another great video by our very own Greg Reese, warning about the imminent collapse of the food chain and the meat shortages. Now here on the first day of May, it feels an awful lot like warning about the coronavirus around January 15th. It seems like we're the only ones looking around and seeing what's down the road and saying, you should be prepared for this. You should prepare yourself for this. Our government should be working to mitigate what we see inevitably coming down the pipe. And yet we're the only ones out here shouting into the forest, and no one seems to be hearing us or caring. A little bit, maneuvers here and there of people trying to protect the farmers, trying to prevent the destruction of crops, et cetera, but it's happening. It will continue. Expect food shortages imminently, and it's not until it's too late that the government will come in and try to fix everything and simply impose a bunch more controls like they always do, like they've done with coronavirus. So, folks, we're warning you now. The food supply shortage is coming. Prepare yourself. Go to InfoWarsStore.com. Get some of our prepared food. Also get some of the fantastic supplements that are now back in stock and on sale, including X2 and the Ultimate Krill Oil. All fantastic stuff. But also don't forget about the Storable Food, folks. It'll be very important very shortly. All right, folks, we got stories, of course, on Joe Biden, stories about General Flynn, stories about coronavirus and the response continuing, as always. My name is Harrison Smith. This is the second hour of the War Room, and I am joined at this very moment by the one and only Owen Schroyer, who wasn't supposed to be here today. We try to give the man a day off. He refuses to go enjoy himself. He has to come back and work and spread the word and talk crap to the mainstream media, and frankly, I can't say I blame you, but
maybe if I could go to a beach or a bar or something, I could actually just kind of decompress.
Yeah, Owen Schroyer just admitted to wanting to kill your grandmother. Oh no, another man we cannot get to take a break.
I'll eat your ass.
I'm just glad I'm not your neighbor. Okay, there were some houses available in your neighborhood, and I went ahead and said, you know what? I have a feeling someday that guy down the street is gonna hang me up and cut me up and chop me up and grill me someday. So I decided not to.
Of course, they ignored the 5 minutes before it, where I taught the Pentagon report within 10 days. Most people become cannibals. They either commit suicide or they start eating people. And I was saying Jonathan Swift was a modest proposal from a few hundred years ago about the Irish were all starving to death. And they said, well, let's just cook Irish children. Jonathan Swift wasn't serious. It's called satire, folks. And there's a way people to talk about the 135 million the UN admits are now starving to death.
But you're not trending because you broke the story on the Wuhan lab 3 months ago. You're trending because you're talking about eating your neighbors. Because that's what the big Alex Jones story is. It's not all the accuracies about Epstein and Bill Gates. And no, it's about he said he wants to eat his neighbors, so that's who Alex Jones is. Gay frogs, eats his neighbors. That's your legacy, Alex. You've done nothing else except make frogs gay and barbecue your neighbors.
That's actually the atrazine that did that.
So, and
it's the global collapse will cause the eating of the neighbors. I would never eat my neighbors. It's an allegory of the collapse of society. Jonathan Swift, folks. They taught us to do it in 6th grade.
The irony is the people that write those
6th grade.
stories.
Yeah. You're always a historian. Tell them about Jonathan Swift.
Yeah,
Modest Proposal.
The Modest Proposal is one of my favorites.
Let's eat the Irish children. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't really mean that.
Let's burn them for fuel. That's a great source of green energy. All the abortions we can harvest and burn them
let's
for
just
fuel.
burn all the old kids that have under 100 IQ. Let's just burn them.
Yeah.
We already use babies for fuel at the hospitals.
Yeah, flavoring too.
Well, it's like Jones wants to burn babies. You're the ones that do it.
That's what I was saying is the people that wrote that story would be the ones that actually would eat their neighbors. Alex Jones would actually feed his neighbors. That's the irony.
No, that's what I'm actually trying to. That's why I mean, listen, I'm not some goody two shoe. I'm not perfect. I have real empathy, though, man. 135 million people are going to starve to death next year. That's a real number. Millions already dying right now. 300,000 a week. Because when we go from first world to third world, we just become poor. They die, and I can't. It's not some virtue signal. We got to do something, man. So I'm telling all these rich trendies want to wear your mask and stuff. Stuff breaks down the road warrior. You're a pussy. I will eat you if I have to. That part at the end, if everything goes that bad, but I don't want it to. I mean, I guess I'd let my kids starve to death, actually. If they help, my freaking trendy neighbors will probably come eat me.
Well, we were comparing.
That's some quality beef.
Yeah.
Kobe fed.
That's some grade A beef right there.
No, we joke about this. Let me tell you, man. Let me tell you something. I've been to the third world. I've seen it, man. These people are not allowed to have industry. They're being kept dumb. They're being dyed, and they're starving to death, man. These kids get all skinny and they're all like, you see all these videos, all the kids are like, ooh, they want food. Cold comes by, they just die.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it works. You really want to sign on to that? It's not some virtue signal. These are real people.
Yeah. Well, we were comparing it to the gay frogs thing because they're going to laugh at you getting mad at what is a very real issue that is very dangerous. The destruction
most
of
of the frogs are dying because the males can't have babies anymore. Like this new drug that Fauci says is so good. Turns out it eats your testicles.
And it turns out, it turns out that the same people who are going to profit off these tests and these vaccines are going to profit off the remdesivir or whatever it is too. So it's all about making themselves rich. Bill Gates is making billions of dollars during this coronavirus outbreak. He's set to make billions more. No investigation into that. No investigation into the Wuhan lab where the lady's set to make millions. Just let it all happen.
Why do you think? Because listen, I was mad coming out of break. I was reading about 135 million to starve to death, and I was pissed. And I was like, yeah, you know what? All you trendies, because they cut all that out where I explain like things break down. You understand this is what happens. This is what it's like in the third world. And to them, it's a joke. So they turned it into Alex Jones will eat his neighbors. No, my neighbors are fine.
Right. Well, it's also about dependency on the system, right? People who are utterly dependent on the system to feed them and clothe them and house them.
Literally,
yeah, they're going to defend that system with their lives because it is their lives.
I joked around one of the crew members over there. He's even bigger than me. I said, man, you're like a month supply of food. It's a joke. You collapse society with 7.5 billion people with only 5% being self-sufficient, it will be zombie hour really fast. And that's what I was trying to illustrate, like Jonathan Swift, to treat people like humans. You don't take the Irish kids. The Irish were benefiting. Hundreds of thousands were dying. The kids were dying. They were like, oh, screw the Irish. They're subhuman. For whatever reason, the English were saying that. And I was saying, really, should we go back to eating kids like Jonathan Swift said?
Well, how do we even have a situation where we're pouring out thousands of gallons of milk, putting down a bunch of chickens that could have been food and all this stuff? I mean, why aren't we trying to get that to poor people? We have people telling us all day long how great they are for trying to feed the poor and taking care of the less fortunate.
Yeah,
well, where are they today?
Depression breakdown, they think Cutesy Foot.
So it's just another example.
Foot.
And dude, the craziest thing is that there are articles. I just typed in Vice cannibalism, and there's like 4 articles saying, cannibalism isn't as edgy as you think. Like, the left will actually talk about eating animals. Yeah.
From Malthus predicted at the end humans would only live off each other. That's where Soylent Green comes from. And so that's why they're like, oh, Alex is into eating people that we like. This is really sexy. It's all an anti-human deal. I was saying, you're sick. Are you going to start eating your neighbors? This is what it's really like. And plus, I also said the rant, it was a full segment, not 1 minute long. I said, you understand, you guys want to be cannibals over us? It'll be us that eat you in that type of scenario. Like, I eat the liberals. You don't eat me. I don't want to eat you, by the way. But I'm just saying, you get in that war, dude, obviously, you're on the spit, not me. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
That?
I mean, this office could take on like 5,000 liberals. I mean, we don't want to eat them either. They're all scrawny and look retarded and everything.
That's not grade A beef.
It's not grade A beef.
Yeah, we only like the high grade.
Fat cows everywhere that Bill Gates is trying to ban. Yeah. We don't want to eat you. I know you're really fantasizing. Like, Alex has joined us, he's anti-human. No, I'm saying that's where you're leading us, dumbasses. I love the videos online, though. Like, people are all freaking out watching it earlier. They're like, oh, the juicy beef of it. This big national talk show host, not bragging, but called up just a minute ago, was like, this is your greatest. he said, don't stat that. The whole office up here at the top #1 show in the country is just totally watching this over and over again. There's like, it's
bigger than Gay Frogs.
And listen, he said, let me guess, it's Jonathan Swift. That's a smart person. He goes, I got the whole rant. You hadn't mentioned Swift in it, but I was like, since we're not going to care about humans, let's just start eating them. Hell, I'll eat my neighbors. Getting rid of humans is a good thing, but there's still thinkers that got what I was doing.
Well, don't abort that baby. I mean, that's a week's worth of food.
7 pounds of meat.
Come on now. Get some of that. Get some of that juicy bone broth. All right, you get.
That's not
There you go. See, here's the thing. You can't punch Alex Jones in the arm because he likes it. He likes the punch. It gets him. He gets energy from it. He just absorbs it and it's just like, All right, Alex. Alex, use the door, please, this time. Don't break through the wall.
Kool-Aid Man on the Raging. What's that Smith's Fault liquor ball? I love that. I don't do that for liquor. I do it for some good piece of ass.
All right, I can't wait for this to be next. What are they going to type next about Alex? Alex Jones said he's going to marinate his neighbors in malt liquor.
Dang. Yeah,
Alex Jones says he's going to bathe in Old English before he eats his neighbors.
Alex Jones smears Thomas and Swift as a
Harrison cannibal. Smith and Owen Schroyer openly endorse Alex Jones cannibalism on air. The nerve!
Look, I'm safe. I'm stringy over here, and no one's gonna want to eat me. I'm good.
Hey, the good news is though, the country is reopening, but we cannot because you're already seeing Zuckerberg and Fauci and Gates saying, "Oh no, we can't open." And now that the country's reopening, they'll probably start rolling headlines and press releases. COVID spikes again. Deaths spike again. All your fault for reopening. We can't fall victim to that. It's going to be more fake news.
Right. I mean, even if they just open up the hospitals and more sick people start going who now are just not getting medical care, they'll get medical care. Some of them might die, and then that'll be counted as coronavirus. I mean, they got the whole system rigged. The game is rigged. It is kind of refreshing to see the mainstream media actually dislike cannibalism. I wasn't sure that was one of the taboos that they weren't ready to do away with yet. In fact, I've searched some terms here. Of course, Reza Aslan actually ate human brains as part of a CNN documentary. So if you're watching CNN, you're supporting a man who literally has eaten people. My name's Harrison Smith. That Chiron is wrong.
Ooh, unleash.
Yeah, I'm on everything right now. Guys, let's bring up this side screen.
I'm glad someone else here keeps the crew in check.
trying my best.
Man.
Let's bring up this side screen. We have Reza Aslan outrages Hindus by eating human brains in CNN documentary. That's one of them. Here we have Vice News asking, why is cannibalism gross? They're not sure. They have their questions. We asked an expert why you think cannibalism is gross. You also have Vice Motherboard saying cannibalism, not as edgy as you think. So there you go. Vox has this article, 7 surprising facts about cannibalism. It's actually not so bad, they'll have you know. And then, of course, let's not forget Marina Abramovic. And I don't even want to open these photos, to be quite honest with you, because I'm not sure what we can show across the internet. But these are the elites. These are their, the people they love, the artists they admire, literally portraying the act of cannibalism and drawing some sort of spiritual power from this. So, yes, let's laugh at Alex Jones saying he's going to eat his neighbor. Meanwhile, the elites are all about destroying every human taboo, the pinnacle of which is cannibalism. And you can really see that if you go back and read, honestly, just read the diaries of people discovering tribes in like Fiji Island or in Central Africa in like the 1700s, 1800s. You want to talk about nightmare fuel. I mean, there's no Hollywood movie that will ever have the type of scenes that were witnessed by some of the first Europeans to visit some of these far corners where cannibalism was a main staple of their diet. It's horrific beyond description. And that's the world we're going down, right? You strip away all of this nonsense about civilization and religion and pride and self-respect and humanity. You strip all that away, and what you're left with is just tribes of people eating each other alive. And this is, I think, part of what Alex Jones was trying to get across with his diatribe.
Well, it's just like, if I came out and did some rant and I like acted all loony, like, I'm gonna abort all your children, and then I'm gonna take their aborted fetal cells and I'm gonna inject them into your body. Well, would they publish the headlines? InfoWars host says he wants to inject you with dead babies. Well, that actually goes on. You guys are actually doing that to us. And so, it's like, that's why I find this whole... Like, you talk about the coronavirus, okay, and you say, hey, I don't want to get a vaccine. They're, like, looking at you like you're crazy. Like, oh, my gosh, you're going to cause people to die. You won't get the vaccine. It's like, you advocate injecting dead baby tissue into your body. That's what you're advocating for. You're right. I'm not advocating for that. I'm okay taking that stance. And I'm the crazy person? I'm the loony because I don't want to inject dead baby tissue into my body? I forget, somebody said something about the flu shot. You know, everybody takes the flu shot. The flu shot doesn't even work.
Right.
It literally doesn't even work. And you have the so-called experts saying, well, you know, we don't know a lot about this coronavirus yet, but you should probably just take a flu shot just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case.
Even though the flu shot this year did pretty much nothing to prevent the flu. And
well, according to the numbers, nobody's died of the flu this year, so maybe it was the greatest flu shot of all time.
Isn't that interesting when you no longer count flu deaths as flu deaths? All the flu deaths disappear. Isn't that a funny coincidence? How am I doing this year? That's a good cartoon right there. There's a lot of talented anti-vaxxers out there, I have to be honest. There's a lot of good stuff.
And I just wish, because look, I understand wanting to stray away from controversial issues when you're just trying to reopen the economy and get your civil liberties back. But the connection to Bill Gates, vaccines, and the coronavirus it's not that it's real, it's everything. It is driving it. It is now the driving factor. It is what's going to be forced for us to give up our civil liberties until the end of time. It's take Bill Gates vaccine. Take the Bill and Melinda Gates vaccine. Even though everywhere Bill Gates goes on the internet, he's completely rejected whole cloth, doesn't matter. Take his vaccine if you want to be free again, because that's freedom.
Yeah. And I mean, just the various sources of information that you can, you take all of these various sources and you draw the lines between them, from them publishing white papers 10 years ago about how this would happen and getting it down perfectly to the Event 201 in October of 2019. You look at everything that they said before this happened. You look at everything they've said since it happened. Look at the way they're praising China and the way China is dealing with this. I mean, China, I have a headline. China is installing cameras outside and sometimes inside people's apartments and houses. Just straight up Orwell. I mean, it's just straight up 1984 Orwell, and our elites are slavering for this. They are desperate for this. But Owen, I want to, in the last 2 minutes of this segment here, I just want to read you this headline and get your feedback on this. Here's the headline from LifeSite. Pope Francis financially bails out transsexual prostitutes struggling with no street customers. Just what is your first impression upon hearing this headline? Pope Francis has, out of the kindness of his heart, chosen to take on the support of transsexual prostitutes now that they can't get customers.
No, I would say this is a nice way of the Pope coming out and admitting he's gay. I mean, that's
I will be your customer.
Yeah, that's obviously what this is. So the Pope is now soliciting street hookers, and, you know, that's his way of supporting the street hooker community. And so it's really a noble act for Pope Francis to finally come out as gay and to be hiring these drag queens to come service him, obviously to support their dying business. This is what it's all about. There's no other motive here. He's not even enjoying it, other than the fact he's just helping these poor people who can't seem to get any work. But the Pope is now saying that he will bring in any transsexual hooker, and he will financially support you. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and I know the Catholics out there, when they're sitting in their pews, you know,
when the collection plate is being passed and they put their money in there, they're saying, I really hope this money goes towards supporting the lifestyle of transsexual prostitutes in Italy. I know that this is what the Catholic Church is all about. It's what it was founded to do, is take care of these transsexual prostitutes.
All right, I've just been given a breaking news story right now, and the connection immediately goes into my head here. Headline, University of Texas under investigation for working with Wuhan laboratory. Let's not also forget that the University of Texas got caught with the Chinese propaganda academia wing, Confucius. That was about 3 years ago. So now you've got UT Texas linked to China Wuhan lab, and you've got UT Texas linked to the China Confucius propaganda. But, you know, I saw something. I want to try to find this headline before we go to break. But it was basically saying how, oh, it did not come out of a lab. Don't say it came out of a lab.
Right.
That's impossible.
They're saying that now. Of course, we have Harvard, but people in Harvard are
I can't
under
see.
fire
Oh,
for
yeah,
this
here it
exact
is.
same thing.
San Francisco Gate. No evidence that deadly bat virus came out of Wuhan lab. No evidence? No evidence, Harrison.
No
It just
evidence.
Literally out of the back door, literally right in the backyard, literally the same virus they've been working with, but no evidence. Though.
No
You know.
evidence. No evidence at all.
I mean, you know, no evidence. I found your blood at the scene of the crime, but I don't have any evidence.
All right, folks, the crew is working busily to get everything handled here. Savannah Hernandez has just released a video about the protests and reopening of Texas. As of this morning, we'll be bringing you that video in the first 5 minutes of the next hour. Of course, you can find it before then at band.video. Of course, I've been through basically this entire show without plugging too much, without letting you know about our sales here on InfoWars. Once again, irresponsible of me, because this is how we're able to do all of this. So if you want us to keep doing this, if you like what we do and want to support trying to get the truth out there, trying to predict what is coming down the line, and warning you about it so you can do what you can to mitigate the machinations of the New World Order, well, you can support us by going to InfoWarsStore.com. Right now, we have back in stock the X2 Deep Earth Crystal Iodine, which is, of course, one of our most popular products, has been sold out and is now back in stock and is now at 50% off. So take advantage of that. You can also take advantage of the Ultimate Krill Oil. Super Male Vitality is also on sale. That's 35% off. The krill oil is 50% off. And, of course, the new release, which I absolutely love, is the Immrix Essential Hand Sanitizer Combo, which is not like the goopy, alcohol-laden hand sanitizer, chemically manipulated hand sanitizer that you'll get at most stores. It smells amazing. It's got a spray bottle, so it's a real light mist that you mist on your fingers. And I was saying last time I was hosting, I was walking through the studio and I suddenly hit this wall of like lavender, and it smelled so good in the corner of the studio because Alex Jones had been filming a commercial in that like 2 days before. It was like for 2 days the whole studio smelled like refreshing lavender because he'd sprayed that Immrix Essential Hand Sanitizer, which you can now get that hand sanitizer combo at 50% off. And when you do, you support everything that we do here. That's a win-win, a 360 win, as Alex Jones terms it. So please do that, and we really appreciate it when you do. Now we got so much stuff to talk about. Where do you want to go, Owen? What do you want to talk about now?
Well, there's some good news as far as the tyrant left trying to shut our country down. Mass protests happening in California right now. I was just told that there was a mass arrest of a bunch of Antifa members here in Austin as part of a rent strike. We'll see if that gets printed or not. I wonder if these are the same people that were assaulting me the other night after Mike Ramos was shot at that protest.
They're like, don't charge us rent, but also don't let us work to pay rent.
By the way, and I think there was basically a, I mean, I've tried to make an olive branch out to Antifa, but there was kind of an Antifa unofficial rep, I would say, who came up to me and was like trying to catch me in off guard, like, well, are you, because I was out there earlier today, like, well, are you going to support the rent protests? Like, expect me to say no, and I said, no, absolutely, they have the right to protest. 100% they can protest. Yeah, I totally support that. Well, all right, then. So, I mean, yeah, you can protest anything you want. I'm not going to...
People with no convictions expect you to not have any convictions, right? Like, people who are ideologically bent expect you to be so as well. We, on the other hand, typically here at InfoWars have pretty well-established principles that we follow that, can lead us to seemingly switch sides occasionally, but in reality, we're on the same side, and it's our side. It's the side.
Hey, this is the fascism, as Elon Musk put it out. I mean, we're seeing the fascism now, but here's a couple other examples. Upstate New York, backlash over virus shutdown. It's not up here. It's not in Albany. It's not in Buffalo. It's in New York City. They're getting upset. California cities vote to sue Gavin Newsom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice, as he just made a $1 billion deal with a Chinese company.
And the legislature in Michigan is now suing the governor for exceeding her authority.
And they basically rejected emergency shutdown extension as well. So
some good news.
But it's like duh. It's like the duh factor. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah, because they have no basis to continue the shutdown other than just the fear that they've been trying to sell us. Well, you've been selling it the fear long enough. You're the boy that cried wolf with the old coronavirus gonna kill you thing. So it's not gonna work. But I think that the Democrats are using this right now to try to, let's say, reshuffle their deck politically, and they want to get the Gretchen Whitmer's out in front. They want to get the Cuomos out in front. I saw this story from CNN. Now look, CNN has published, I mean, this is the fakest news you could ever imagine. I'm serious. This may be their fakest news headline you've ever seen right here.
That would be quite an accomplishment.
Andrew Cuomo may be the single most popular politician in America right now. CNN today.
I'm not sure if that's more damning of CNN's reporting or the American people.
Can you imagine? Andrew Cuomo could have a rally in New York City tomorrow, and people would show up with rotten tomatoes to throw at his head. Okay? And, you know, he might be popular in the underground nipple piercing community, but that's a small community. In the overall state of New York and America, very unpopular. So just CNN just can't stop. No. CNN can't stop printing fake news.
But you know what, going back to what we were just talking about before, how the left is using this, you know, as an excuse to try to destroy the Constitution, try to just put us into this box, and we see that. Whereas the Republicans are really using the virus, using the lockdown, using the backlash as an excuse to just try to get regular laws to be enforced. I have the story here from newswars.com. Representative Gates files bill to deport all illegals during pandemic. It's like, I mean, this is, you know, you can imagine the idiocracy future where it's like Representative Gates files a bill to jail criminals. And it's like, how are we in a world where you have to file a separate bill, a new bill, to just enforce the laws that have been on the books for 100 years? This is where we are now, that we have to take advantage of this pandemic just to pass bills to support the laws that have been on the books forever. He should not have to file a bill to deport all illegal immigrants because they should all be deported already. It's ridiculous, but this is where we are.
It's the clown world. And, you know, here, as if the CNN headline saying Cuomo is the most popular politician in America isn't clown world enough. Again, it's the Washington Post. Ted Cruz called out the Washington Post for being Chinese propaganda today, by the way, saying again, it did not come out of a Wuhan lab. So that's their new thing. It never came out of the Wuhan lab. There's no evidence of this at all. Quit saying that. I mean, they're literally carrying China's water, promoting Chinese propaganda. You can't even believe it. And then, but you know, here's another little cherry on top. They're also saying, and they made major push notifications to your cell phone, so you probably got this on a push notification to your cell phone. White House holds first press briefing in over a year. Donald Trump has first official press briefing since March 3rd, 2019. And you're sitting here thinking, wait a second, what have I been watching every day for the last 3 months? Oh, no. That's not an official press briefing. That's a coronavirus task force briefing. It's totally different.
They are children. They are whiny, spoiled, bratty children who don't want anything except to destroy those that are better than them. So
now hold on a second.
No.
You saw the CNN report. You know that they did not have burgers stacked a mile high.
Oh, yes, we did the math. We broke down the math.
It was a half mile.
But think about this. it's just yet another example where it's like Donald Trump doesn't have any press conferences. Okay, he starts having press conferences. Donald Trump is having too many press conferences. Donald Trump doesn't have a spokesperson. Why does Donald Trump hide behind a spokesperson? It's like, stop, don't try to appease these people. Don't pay attention to their vacuous complaining. They are just going to complain whatever you do. Whatever Donald Trump does, they will complain about, even if it's piling a mile-high stack of burgers in the most American explosion of flavor you've ever seen. They don't even want that.
You know what you do to a gnat in your ear?
What do you do?
You squash it. You squash it like a bug. But I mean, I've never forgiven the president for claiming he had burgers stacked a mile high, when even if you combined the chicken sandwiches with the burgers, it would still not be a mile high. The president is yet to answer for this lie. The president is yet to explain himself.
We need another impeachment council. We need to get to the bottom of this mile-high burger thing once and for all. As we travel down the tube of misinformation and disinformation to do battle against the real-life Bowser of our world, which is, of course, the New World Order and those that would serve it. Just incredible headlines across the board. You have just on Infowars.com, folks. Austria, police may intervene if they see people kissing. Oh, my goodness.
Stop that love.
This is exactly what we need. Thank you, Austria. Thank you. Prominent scientists warned in 2013 of Chinese labs, quote, appalling irresponsibility with viruses. But I think WAPO has researched this, and they say totally unfounded, totally impossible that it would come out of a lab. Which actually, I don't even think they're saying. I think they've now subtly drawn the distinction where they say there's absolutely no proof that it was man-made. And it's like, oh, but it did come from the lab? Well, it looks like it may have come from the lab. But there's no proof that it was man-made. I think that's sort of the manipulation that they're working with right now.
Well, they just don't want to be, blatant speciesists and blame bats, but they've kind of been put into that position, and so they're going to be blaming bats now. I mean, think about the innocent bats. You know, this is Bat City here in Austin, Texas. We have a very large bat population.
We do.
And so I would just like to encourage people, come on down to Bat City. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Have a big old bowl of bat soup.
Or don't. Or just observe the bats as they fly out from under the Congress Bridge. But, Nancy Pelosi, when the virus was spreading, she said, hey, come on down to the, little Chinatown. So come on down to Bat City. Come on down to Bat City in Austin, Texas, and enjoy all the bats here. And if you dare say that this Wuhan flu Chinese virus came from a bat, I'm going to have to call you out on your blatant speciesism and your clear, distinct hatred of bats.
Yeah, get ready to get kicked off Twitter.
Because I'm not going to sit here and let innocent bats take the fall.
God-fearing bats who are just trying to live their lives come under the scorn of these white nationalist terrorists.
I'm hurt.
To tell us, yeah.
I'm hurt that the Democrats would blame innocent bats.
I'm glad you're willing to speak for the bats. You are showing that you're aware of your privilege, and you're actually using that privilege to actually help the bats.
Well, someone has to care about the bats.
Kind of a hero.
It's obvious to me that the left in America doesn't even think twice about the innocent bats. I mean, think about how many people are going to grow up now scared of bats, hating bats, all because they've been unjustly blamed for this coronavirus when it was clearly the Chinese.
It was clearly made in the lab by Chinese scientists with support of Bill Gates and the Obama administration.
That's the irony here, is that it's not even about blaming China. It's not that we hate the Chinese people. I would love to actually see not... It's like we're basically up against a point where there's going to be a big war with China. It's going to be called World War III. It'll be the United States and China. And it'll be a fake war that just the corporations and the power structure will win, and the American people and the Chinese people will suffer. Or it'll be a real war, and we'll actually have a real world economy that doesn't have slave labor in China and will free the people of China, which will in turn obviously help the Chinese people and will help the people of America who have been had their economy sucked dry by China. So that would be the real result of this. But, I just think it's sad, again, that bats are catching a bad rap for this. And, you know, this is all... So when you see violence happening against bats, just know that it's because of the Democrat Party.
If it's bad on bad, you know, within the bat community.
Bad on bad crime is increasing now. And I'm looking right at you, Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, absolutely. Bats are actually awesome, and it is cool living in Austin. You walk around about 8 p.m. at night, you see them swooping down there. They are pretty cool and take care of a lot of bugs and actually prevent a lot of disease. So I would appreciate you not besmirching their good name.
That's true. We'd have all these mosquitoes spreading the Zika.
The Zika. That was the big one, right? That was very... They took Zika so seriously. You know what they did? They funded a lab in Wuhan to research SARS and MERS. That's how seriously they took SARS and Zika.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, millions of dollars to them. Obviously in coordination with Harvard and University of Texas.
Texas now, it just came out today. So you got Harvard with Charles Lieber, you got UT, you got Obama. And that's what I was going to say, too, is, you know, the lab in Wuhan needs to have a serious investigation. I said that we need every name that has ever gone in or come out of that lab in the last 10, maybe 20 years. And every single one of them needs to be questioned about this. This is, I mean, you know, I'm kind of trying to have a little lighthearted fun today just because everything is so crazy. But seriously, this is probably, I mean, as far as a worldwide scope and scale,
that's unprecedented.
This is the biggest crime against humanity to ever happen.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it, because we've had our bodies literally penetrated by a man-made virus. Okay, your bodies have been penetrated by a man-made virus. Most people probably won't get sick, and the worst thing it'll do is probably lower men's fertility another 5 or 10%. Just, you know, part of the bigger depopulation.
But it's here forever. Like, it's a part of the human race.
It's already here.
Now on.
It's already here. It's never going away. It'll be in every single human on Earth's body. A man-made virus. That is biological warfare, whether it was intended to be or not. This is the biggest crime against humanity in world history. And to all those people that say, my body, my choice when it comes to abortion, well, did you choose to have a virus put into you? Because guess what? You did. You do now. And I guarantee you, I mean, you're already seeing it. The guy tested positive for the antibodies in Wisconsin. He's like, yeah, I haven't been sick since last December. So he probably had coronavirus in December. It's been here, folks. We had dozens of hockey games and basketball games and football games and Super Bowls, and it didn't spread worse. So even though we know all the facts and the models were wrong, it doesn't matter. It's Trump's fault. It didn't come out of a lab. And if you dare stand up for your freedom to not be a slave, well, then you are responsible for anyone dying. That's the new world order that the Democrats and the globalists are pushing right now. And quite frankly, I'm not going to be a part of it. I'd rather live, but I'm not going to be alive to be a part of it.
Now, when you say the models are wrong, are you talking about the predictions that are made, or are you talking about the idiots on Instagram who are dancing around TikTok and telling me to stay inside? Which models are you referring to here?
We do actually have we did say we would document every nursing video that comes out.
Lord,
so guys, just roll them as B-roll. We don't need to play the whole thing. They can just roll them as B-roll. But we do have more. We document every one here for the audience on the War Room. But no, I do make a habit of looking for insight intellectually from what's that supermodel who's like the spokesperson for the coronavirus masks now? Naomi something, Naomi Campbell maybe. Well, she's a supermodel. Obviously, supermodels known for their high IQ and intellect and ability to reason with logic and common sense and problem solving. And so I always have made a habit of looking up to supermodels to make philosophical, intellectual decisions. I remember growing up mainly being influenced by the genius of Paris Hilton and other like geniuses, Nicole Richie. I mean, these are the types of intellectual giants that are going to save the American youth. But yes, here are all the nurses' TikTok videos that has a lot of people really wondering. You said there was no equipment for protective masks and stuff, yet you're out here using them for a video shoot. You said the hospitals were overwhelmed, yet you have time to coordinate dance videos and dance routines. You're still getting paid. You're still employed while a bunch of Americans are suffering. So,
well, no, look, you got to put yourself in their position. And really, they're sitting around. They're bored because nobody is coming into the hospital because this is all largely a hoax, and they
you know, don't have much to do, and they get on TikTok and they see another hospital is dancing around with a fake corpse, and you think, yeah, that would be fun. Couldn't we do that? Couldn't you see Jeremy dancing like that in the break room? And you want to go out and you want to do this because you think it's fun. You don't have anything else to do because everybody's being told there's no other services except for coronavirus treatment, and nobody in your area actually has coronavirus, so you're stuck twiddling your thumbs, and you think it might be fun to put together a little dance video. Stop it. Just stop it. From all of us here, stop it. You stop it too. No, we're not dancing.
Look at how overwhelmed the crew is. Look at how overwhelmed they are.
Those are the true heroes. Can we get some comics of Superman saluting the InfoWars crew as they're doing TikTok dances?
Look at how overwhelmed the crew is doing coordinated dance routines.
I just want the nurses to know how we see them. Just stop it. You stop it. You stop it. Back there.
No self-awareness.
No,
seriously though, like I see these videos and I'm just like, you know, I remember when the girls used to organize at recess, you know, when we were in like 3rd grade.
Yeah, stop dancing.
And they'd like do like jump rope routines and all that stuff. I mean, this is like little girl activity. This is like grade school, you know, girls jumping rope.
They're heroes.
But
though.
they're nurses in hospitals.
Yeah. It doesn't look good. We don't think it's cute. We don't think it's funny. We aren't sympathizing with you. We don't think you're heroes. We think you're wasting time and making a mockery out of the rest of us that are trying to get our lives back in order.
Now, I want to skip some rope.
This is Savannah Hernandez for Action 7 News. Now, today is the day for reopening here in Texas. Greg Abbott is finally easing up on coronavirus lockdown restrictions and allowing malls, retail stores, restaurants to start slowly reopening, but only at a 25% capacity. So I wanted to come here today to the Barton Creek Mall and see if people were going to be out and about, see if the stores were going to be open, and if people were still scared of coronavirus, if that was still a very big fear, and if they would even think about venturing into the mall. So we did do a quick walkthrough, and the thing that we did see is that there's probably more than 50 stores in this mall, and there's about 5 of them at most that are currently open, and those stores are smaller boutique stores, maybe even locally owned. Those big corporations, Macy's, Dillard's, JCPenney, Sephora, all of those stores are remaining closed. So the majority of the mall not open for business. There are a couple of people that we've seen walking through, a lot of them still wearing masks, of course, and seems that the coronavirus still has Texas locked down in terms of retail businesses, in terms of the mall. Restaurants as well are allowed to open up at a 25% capacity. Tables cannot have more than 6 people per table, and patrons still need to be seated 6 feet apart.
I have been to every store. I sat down and ate lunch at Punky Joe's today. It was amazing. We're ready to get back out and shop, and I'm here to support my economy. I got money in both fists, and I'm going to spend it at every store that's open, you know.
A lot of people around the nation are saying that Texas is opening up too early, that Georgia opened up too early. There's going to be severe consequences. Do you think that will happen here in Texas? What do you foresee now that the economy is opening up?
I foresee a lot of women like me wanting to get their nails done, their hair done, go shopping, and you know, people die every day. There are more people who die from the flu. You've got to live. You can't live in fear. The people who are afraid, stay home. Let the rest of us live. I'm willing to risk my life. I don't want my children and my grandchildren to live in a country that's so deep in debt because of fear. So, hey, if it takes me out, baby, it takes me out. But before then, I'll be at the mall.
We're open for business again.
Yep.
What do you think about it? Do you think Texas is reopening too early?
Hell yeah. Y'all stay at home. It's for sure too early. I'm only here to get a cheesecake for my son's birthday.
So some scientists and doctors are now coming out and saying that sheltering in place is actually bad for your immune system because of the way that our immune systems work in terms of, you know, getting a virus and then getting over it. Of course, when we do reopen, because everyone has been forced to stay inside, we're going to see a huge uptick. So do you think that we should still have people in lockdown, or do you think that it's been more detrimental than good?
I think the lockdown specifically is detrimental. I think everything does need to be shut down in like large gatherings where you can like get with a lot of people. I think we should encourage people to go outside, continue to go to the green belt, you know, continue to go get in the waters and stuff like that.
Why are you wearing a mask?
Cause they made me. Like I can't go anywhere. Look, I came back from California like last week, and they were like, "Hey, stop! We're on the mask. You can't come in the gas station." I was like, "What?" So now it's like, "Hey, I got like 10 of them in my car.
I want you to know we have been in some stores today. The people that worked there removed them when we removed them. They're had enough of it too. You know, we only wear them because of the government forcing us to. Most people would take them off in a minute. You know, it's freedom above fear. You know what I fear the most? Is the government taking away my rights. I fear the transients with their knives more than I fear the virus. You know, I'm gonna live. My days are numbered by God, and nobody's gonna take me out. He won't be surprised when I get there, you know, so I'm not worried about it.
That's what life is like over here in Texas for our first day of reopen. Hopefully, as time goes on, more businesses will begin to reopen. I was talking to one of our cameramen as well, and we did note that a lot of the local businesses throughout Austin actually remained open throughout this time. And of course, we know it's because it's those small businesses that have been some of the most impacted. These people don't want to see their small businesses destroyed before their very eyes, so they've tried to stay open and do what they can to stay afloat during this time of complete economic destruction. This past Thursday, 30 million people were said to be unemployed, and we know that millions more have not even been able to apply for unemployment due to overwhelmed servers.
My name's Harrison Smith. I'm sitting here with Owen Schroyer, who will be with us for the next segment as we continue to talk about just the absolute absurdity of the modern world and the situation in which we find ourselves, and we're sort of vacillating between just laughing at it and just being enraged by it. And I think a lot of people out there are feeling this this way as well. What's your supreme mood here? Because to me, it's sort of just it's almost I don't know how to, like, it's not apathy, but it's just like nobody knows anything. Nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. The media's full of lies. I'm just like, I want to just tune out until it's all over, and then I'll tune back in and go, all right, what happened in the last 3? That's sort of my mood, is like, can I please just fall asleep until this is all over? I'm sick of it. How you feeling, Owen?
No, you pretty much just nailed my exact attitude for this. That's why I was trying to take a vacation, just try to get my mind off it, but you can't even do that. You can't go decompress at a beach. You can't go decompress at a bar. You can't go decompress at a ball game. You can't go decompress with your family. They've banned family gatherings. So it's like you can't even get away from it, even if you try. And here's what I kind of, it's just like what you said, except I feel like what, you know, InfoWars has been so far ahead of the curve for so long and has been the leading edge for so long. For the first time, we're finally starting to kind of see mainstream trying to keep up with us, almost in a way. But instead of us having to, like, drag the mainstream news or drag America with us, it's like it's kind of naturally happening, but it's still so obvious. And the analogy I made last week is it's like we've leveled up. It's like, I know you play Mario Kart. You've beat me a couple times.
That was my wife, but yeah.
But it's like in Mario Kart, you know, when you finish and everybody else is still racing, like, you have to sit around and wait.
Right.
So if you're that much better than all your friends, you're sitting around waiting for like 10 minutes for them to finish the race, and you're just like, oh, like yawning, you know. So it's like I kind of feel like that's like where I'm at. I feel like I've mastered this track. We've played this level. We've beat this level. I'm done on this level. I'm sick of this level. It's boring to me. I know all the crevices. I know all the ins and outs. I know all the secret hiding spots and Easter eggs and everything. I'm done. I'm over this level. I'm bored with it. I'm ready to move on to the next level. But we're still waiting for everyone else. We're still waiting for everyone else to finish this level so that we can start moving back up. So it's, you know, and it's the same thing. It's redundant every day. Blame Trump. I mean, literally everything the Democrats do, it comes down to two things. Trump's racist, and it's Trump's fault. It doesn't matter what the issue is, how it plays. It's every damn time. And they've done the same thing with the coronavirus. And when people are that insane, Harrison, when something, I mean, whether you think it was man-made or not, or whether you think it came out of a lab or not, it came out of China.
Right.
It came out of China, and they're blaming Trump for it.
Yeah. Well, and they've manipulated people into reading every little thing. I had this long debate. So I made this infographic that highlights every plague throughout history that originated in China. Turns out it's like almost all of them. Like pretty much 9 out of 10 of the biggest plagues to ever sweep the earth, they all came out of China. I thought that was an interesting thing, so I put it up on Reddit, I think, which was a mistake because Reddit is a trash fire. I came to be reminded once again when I posted this. And it was like all these people calling me racist and saying all this stuff that I was blaming China on this and all this nonsense. And I just kept saying the same thing. I just kept saying the disease came out of China. That's just a fact. And they're all reading into all these different, but you're racist against Chinese. The disease came out of China. That's all I kept responding with, because it's a fact. But they've trained everybody to be their little soldiers, to go out there and read in to what you're saying, even if you're just presenting a clear and obvious fact, and you're not drawing any conclusions from it, you're not basing any sort of bias on it. You're just saying the coronavirus, COVID-19, originated in China. But that fact, just saying that has been warped and manipulated, and everybody out there is suddenly sees that as something racist and needs to be fought against. So they've trained people to see just a blatant fact and read into it so deeply and so negatively, and then to argue against it. It's like it came out of China. It came out of China. I'm sorry, nothing you say can change that fact.
Well, and that's why, and so I kind of it's like with the whole thing with the Trump phenomenon, the Trump movement. I mean, InfoWars, there were other outliers, Ann Coulter, Michael Savage. But I mean, I remember in 2015 when Trump announced, and then, some of the early rallies and early coverage. I mean, I remember it was next to nobody that supported Trump. I mean, I was on an island supporting Trump. I mean, I literally got heckled at a Missouri rally. Everybody remembers him, Abe Skrillex. But see, we still felt like, okay, we're still pulling everyone with us. We still have that rope. You're going to see who Trump is. You're going to see it. And so we kind of got to that point. Trump's approval rating, well, he gets nominated. He wins the election. His approval ratings keep going, the economy and everything. And so we still felt like, okay, we're leading the edge, but we're still pulling along with us. We're still putting in the good work. We're still seeing the manifest.
And that has been a success, right? Now you see, I mean, the term globalist was a laughingstock in 2014. If you go back and find a video clip of somebody using the term globalist, they're using it as a joke, like it's nothing and doesn't exist. Now, people understand what the distinction between globalist and nationalist, what the deep state actually is, how it acts, how it manipulates people. So you can't underestimate that what effect that polling has had. We're just, go on. We're still polling, but now we're just waiting.
And so, but that's why it's so frustrating now, because I feel like with the censorship, our rope has been cut, where it sounded like a single thread. And with the coronavirus shutdown, we've reached a wall. We've reached a stalling point. It's like we know the wall's deteriorating. We know eventually the wall is going to fall, but I can't get through it right now. So it's like I'm just sitting here waiting for everyone else to pound this wall down so that we can move on with our lives and move on with our goal of making America great again. And who knows what happens, because mainstream news is not going to stop. They're going to keep blaming Trump. They're going to impeach Trump for this. That's what's coming next. They've already got their little subcommittee set up. 9 committees on coronavirus now. 9, including a subcommittee that I guarantee you it's only going to be to impeach Trump. So we're going to go through with that again. And I just, I think this is the biggest problem that I think any thinking individual right now, and we don't like talking about it, but it's true. I'm not coming out as anti-Trump. I'm not saying I'm done with Trump. I'm simply saying I have to really think about November, and if this last year is what we get with Trump and nothing changes, I either go and vote for Trump with a sour taste in my mouth, or I don't vote. I mean, that's just the facts. It's just, and I think a lot of people are looking at it that way now, and we don't want to talk about it because we had a belief that Trump was going to do a lot of great things, and he has, stopping the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Paris Climate Accord, defunding WHO. I can't knock all the great things Trump has done, but if you look at his greatest accomplishment in the economy, it's all been erased. If you look at what the greatest attack on free speech, the time period in American history, what is the greatest attack? It's under Trump's presidency. The greatest tyranny I've ever seen in my life, under Trump's presidency. Just like you were saying, these are facts. I don't get mad at these facts. I don't deny these facts. I don't try to make claims about who you are through these facts. I have to accept these facts. I have to weigh these facts, and I have to consider these things when I operate in the future. And we were kind of saying this in the break, and it's really, and I think to answer your question, this is ultimately, I think, where you just, dust is all settled, bare bones. It's all like, avoid all of the noise. It's either the events, I'm not saying Q is real or not, I'm saying the events that Q are alleging are going to happen, or that Q supporters allege are going to happen, either that all happens or we're screwed. Or I don't know if I can vote for Trump again, because this is out of control. The amount of treason that has been committed in broad daylight and not a single person person has been arrested, but his life has been destroyed. I've been to jail twice. Roger Stone has now been sentenced. Alex Jones gets heckled and he doesn't get free speech. We're the victims of everything. We're not the criminals. The criminals are roaming free. The criminals have more power now than they've ever had in my life. So I think it's a painful stretch to think about. And like I said, I feel like we've lost the rope. We're stuck on this level. We're waiting for people to catch up. We're at this coronavirus wall. We're waiting for it to fall, see what's on the other side. It may be dark on the other side. We don't know. And so that's just kind of where I'm ultimately at right now. And only time will tell, but this weekend could be big, and we'll see if states are reopening next Monday. But hey, people in California are gathered on the beach. Thousands of them. Coronavirus isn't going to spread.
Let's put it this way. Trump's re-election is not guaranteed, and if he is not re-elected, the last 4 years will have been the biggest waste of an opportunity history has ever seen.
It's like dropping a Super Bowl pass for the win.
Yeah, pretty much, if this doesn't get done. I totally agree. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Harrison Smith. I'm alone at the desk now. It feels empty without my compatriots, Owen Schroyer and Greg Reese, but I'll soldier on ahead. I actually have some great video clips that I would like to show you fine folks out there, as well as several other